Wait for nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm going to host while I'm here.
Please do.
Nice.
Raid.
Not
so
raid, but
I decided not to do the alerts and stuff because that was very distracting for me the other day.
I imagine it was.
I would like to somehow incorporate things that special things people can do for the podcast, especially like stream loot cards that could be played for the podcast. But I guess I should think of what those would be first before I have on-screen alerts. So at least I know I can do it if I need to. But anyway, okay.
Okay, I'll come back to that.
Okay, now I need to work on my Vincent's price. Ow, my bottom. Ow, my top.
Yeah.
Damn, Paul.
Pop out chat. There we go.
Let's see.
Scoot you over
I'm
here.
a police officer.
Are you now?
Really?
Yeah.
Detective John Kibble.
I'm a cop, you idiot.
Okay, we get it.
Okay, that's
Take
hosting.
it back.
Good.
That's good.
And then because
all right.
one
Thumbs
of our
up
friends wanted a link.
when you are ready to go.
5 seconds.
By the way, do you have something for the memory mind meld place?
No, I was just gonna skip it. Hey, Ashley.
Hello. Oh,
Dang it.
Commissioner Gordon called.
Dang it!
Which reminds me myself.
Is that
Silent
Brian
mode is-
Singer?
Silent mode is
Oh
now
my
on.
gosh, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, Ashley. I hope so too.
Thank you, Ashley.
That's...
I'm hoping it doesn't go well in a small way just to make it more fun, but overall it goes well. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Did you guys all happen to download the correct version of the Batman the movie podcast? By the way, the one without.
Yes,
all the
know.
I
gaps?
did.
Okay. Okay.
How would I know?
Well, the first one, I was confused.
Yeah.
And then after I was about to get onto Discord and ask if
Stacey.
something had happened, and then I saw you had posted a upload, so I was like, well, I'll delete this episode and re-download.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, Dallas was the first one to inform me. So
What was it? Just out of curiosity.
Francisco couldn't be heard.
Yeah, essentially. So at some point during the latter part of the episode editing, I had somehow selected my entire track, and I trimmed a section of the segment I was working on, and that at every cut it removed that much from all the different segments.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean that's supposed to make it easy if you want to edit multiple areas all at once.
Right.
But if you don't know you're doing that, then
I can see
yes.
that. I can see how that would be a very dangerous tool.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is why I use the very simple tools, because I'm not as advanced as you are.
Fair enough. But apparently the advancements got me. The rhythm's going to get you.
Hey, stuff happens.
Exactly. PaulJPowers.com has entered the Konami code while we're in the Battle Axe of Puss.
Now we're having fun.
We are having fun. All the fun. Hey, Stacey.
Yeah. Hi. I'm very happy
hello.
to be here.
Oh,
Very nice to see you all again. First,
Cellcast is
I would
ready
like to just
think
get to know you.
dimensionally while we're in the X-Buster of Bad Karaoke.
I protest. I do not sing bad karaoke. I am a
But
very
your
good singer.
X-Buster does.
Oh, okay, never
Yeah.
mind. I misunderstood.
Yeah, gosh. It's
yeah.
the X-Buster of Bad Karaoke, not the Drew of Bad Karaoke.
What's that supposed to mean?
It's quite the distinction. Okay. Well,
It's-
thumbs up.
It means I'm just lip syncing to the bad karaoke, is what it sounds like.
Sure, we'll go with that. Thumbs
Yeah.
up if you're ready to actually start the episode. Paul does
Okay.
look young. Very, very young. Ashley is buying Womp Train tickets while we're in the Flux Capacitor of Just Die Now. All right. Okay, good. Awesome, guys. Then it's just me for the opening, and then we'll go here. Oh, I want to get onto the actual soundboard. There we go. And this is going. Yeah, the stream means it's recording. It's going out to the
Yes.
channels, obviously.
Wait, did you go through the entire checklist?
Yeah, I did already. Yeah.
Wow. No,
I'm
I
just
don't.
gonna double
A
check.
short checklist, unless you did most of it before I got here.
Yeah, no, I went through it all.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Now I just have to remember my spiritual speculation.
Yeah, geez, Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, Paul.
This may take a couple takes, so here we go. In 5,
Okay.
4,
Set up for the
Wait
Ednas.
for it.
3, 2. Oh, my bottom. Oh, my top. Greedies, don't you ever stop. Well, sure. When it's time to listen to this episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Reflux capacitor, fluxing, crew to stations. Scanning for The Thief and the Cobbler, 1993. Prepare to rewind in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the master tack interrupter powers.
To please the captain, beloved by all, commence this podcast. In short, play ball!
Also, for this discussion of the film The Thief and the Cobbler, we welcome back aboard ship's historian, Drew Dodgen. Welcome, Drew.
I wish I could have thought up a rhyme to introduce myself, but unfortunately, we're just going to go with this.
You should have said, but I didn't have the time. Come on. It's right
That didn't-
there.
that
It writes
didn't rhyme with-
itself.
But that didn't rhyme with myself.
It rhymes with time. I wish
I didn't say time.
I mean, it rhymes with rhyme. Oh my. Unfortunately, I didn't come up with the rhyme because I didn't have the time. It's right there. In the palm of your hand. Anyway.
So you're saying it's like the power of the sun.
Yes, Icarus. In addition to the non-rhyming Drew, we are glad to have back aboard co-host of the Cellcast, Jacob Heron. Hey, Jacob.
What's up, guys? Hey, I'm trying to steal these massive orbs. Can you help me out in some way?
No.
Sure, if you can rhyme. But apparently you can't.
We don't want Sauron to attack the Golden City. I'm sorry,
That's
no.
true.
Oh, good point. Good
but
point.
they're worth a fortune.
Yeah, and I'm a man.
You're just in a hurry to get to Disney World, aren't you?
Pretty much.
Well, I'm in a hurry to get to our episode. So now that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for The Thief and the Cobbler?
All right, Thief and the Cobbler, also known as Arabian Nights. And Arabian Nights was released 1942.
Dang it, Paul!
It was directed by John
Stop!
Warland.
Stop!
Yeah?
Stop!
What?
The animated Arabian.
Oh, the animated.
Yeah, the animated
okay.
one.
Oh, you mean the Princess and the Cobbler?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Scooby-Doo and the Arabian Nights
Oh my
came out in
God.
1994.
Great. That's
And-
my movie.
Yeah, runs an hour and 9 minutes. It was directed by June Falkenstein. It was written by Gordon Kent and Glenn Leopold. It stars Don Messick, Casey Kasem, and Greg Bursum. Oh, you know, the original cast.
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul. No, we want Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Come on.
Oh, okay. You must be talking about.
Nights in Arabian ways.
Also known as The Thief and the Cobbler. It was released
Yes,
September
that
23rd, 1993 in Australia. It runs an hour and 30 minutes and is rated G. It was directed by Richard Williams and written by him along with Margaret French and Parker Bennett, with the lead voice actors being Vincent Price, Matthew Broderick, and Jennifer Beals. The music was composed by David Burnham, David Cullen, Robert Folk, and Peter Shade. Are you ready for the box office trivia?
I am ready. Drew and Jacob, are you ready?
Sure.
Yep.
And
All right.
Everyone watching live, feel free to guess as well. Go for it, Paul.
Because of the history and the conflicting reports, The Thief and the Cobbler was made somewhere between $30 million and $60 million,
okay.
and earned almost $700,000 at the box office. Yeah.
Ouch.
If they had just the advertisement alone for this movie, they spent over $30 million on, and they
Oh
got
my
less than
gosh. Jeez.
So given this and the fact that
This
it was
all sounds like a poor investment.
Yeah, it does.
given that all right, the
Beautiful
fact
investment, but still.
that it was released theatrically in 1993, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the other movies released theatrically in 1993?
And by the way, I will make a caveat. Apparently, this was released in the U.S. in '95, but let's
Yes.
go ahead with the '93 since you already looked that up.
All right.
Okay,
So it was released theatrically in 95?
I believe so. Yes. When I
Oh,
it's-
interesting. I was
Even
going
another
for
one of those conflicting reports things because I saw
Yeah.
the only
Could
big
be.
year I saw was '94. On
yeah.
anything.
Jeez. Okay, then go figure.
It's
This
all
is
over the
not-
map.
Yeah,
It doesn't
is.
matter. I already know what the answer is as soon as you give me what my upper limit is.
All right, the upper limit is 300.
300 is where I'm placing it.
Whoa!
Okay, Drew, what's your guess?
300.
3.
This
Jacob,
is
how about you?
madness, and it's not Sparta.
Oh wow, Jacob, how about your guess?
394.
You
The
can't go
maximum was
lower than
300.
300.
294, you mean?
You mean
Okay, yeah,
294?
294.
Oh, okay,
294,
okay.
Whatever.
I don't have enough space for these high numbers. Let's see. In chat, Stacy guesses 200. Ashley guesses 299. I'm gonna be very charitable and say 200. So there, like
right.
Stacy. Yeah.
Okay.
So Paul, what was the final number?
All right, this is interesting because the largest I could find of all the lists out there, they don't do the whole thing. They have a limit, and the largest limit I could find was 200, and it didn't even make that. So
Whoa! Win!
that was over
we're
$1 million
all
by itself. So anyone who guessed over 200, sorry, Captain, wins.
Oh man.
Man.
So
Yeah.
Coffee and RPGs must have really won because they said over 9,000.
What?
Yes.
9,000?
Yep. It was
Yeah,
over
so
9,000.
it
All right.
didn't
Well,
make anybody's list that I could find online.
then good
because-
job to everyone but me and Stacy who guessed 200.
Considering I never even remember this being advertised at all from that
No.
time period.
Right.
I think I
But-
vaguely remember seeing your commercial. Vaguely.
But thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we will get into once Alice has located our target film.
Alert, alert. Approaching target. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
For the magic of Aladdin, way before the birth of Alibaba, there was the first Arabian Night.
What is name?
I'm Tad. Now, from the Academy Award-winning animator of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, comes an extraordinary story you never knew. About a hero you'll never forget. Arabian Night, rated G. Starts Friday, August 25th.
There's some lies in that.
A hero will never forget. Well, sometimes memories are a thing we forget. In fact, we have no memories for this because I think this was the first time all of us had watched this film. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Yes.
The
Yeah, okay.
only time I had seen anything about this before was on a review on YouTube about the movie. So,
Oh, really?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why
So-
are we reviewing this, Francisco?
So
if
this
none
was
of us have seen it.
This was a patron pick. So,
But
Mr.
not
Ross,
our patron pick.
thank you so much for being a patron and picking this movie. If hopefully you continue to be a patron after this.
Wow, no giving away your final review there. But anyone who's listened to this would probably guess before we even start any episode what your review is going to be.
There may be some opinions.
No giving away the tack. I don't know. Anyway,
Ow.
oh, wow. So even though that commercial didn't trigger any memories for us, I'm sure it did for maybe Mr. Lost or anyone else who has seen this before. And we are now going to get into the things that we predicted this movie would be before we watched it, even though we hadn't seen it before, our predictions of classic, nostalgic, or tragic. Let's start with Jacob this time. What was your prediction?
Tragic.
Tragic.
Tragic. The idea that, like, going basically off the cover and what I've seen, I was like, this doesn't look like a very good film at all. So there again, never seen a trailer. I think I saw a trailer once when I was a kid, but other than that, it's like, this doesn't look like a good film at all. So tragic.
All right, Drew, how about you?
I also predicted tragic based on what I remembered of that YouTube review I saw many years ago, and the story it told about how its director was treated, considering this was supposed to be his magnum opus, and then he got fired from it at like almost the last minute, and then it was completed without him. So I figured they would screw it up, and it would be tragic.
Got it. How about you, Paul?
Well, I had actually heard of this movie before. I could give you a little bit of background here. When I was in college around the year 2000, give or take, actually about a year before that.
In the year 2000.
Thank you, Conan. I was taking animation classes, and this story of this film, directed by
Richard
Williams, was known throughout the animators and the animation field. Like,
really,
it's one of those where it's like he worked on it for 30 years, and then like he had these deals, and they fell through, and this is what happens when you get involved, kind of thing with corporate, or it can happen, kind of a thing. But from that regard, I thought it would be a classic, but I had no idea that it was the same film that I remember seeing previews for a few years back, because it was a different title.
Oh yeah,
that looked like it was a knockoff of Aladdin that belonged in the dollar bin by one of those other, those videos that try to trick parents to buy the knockoff for their kids.
Transmorphers.
Yeah, exactly.
The Snow Queen.
Yeah,
exactly.
It looked like one of those, and so that's
Ratatouille.
looked like a tragic, but I had not seen any of them, so I combined them and I predicted nostalgic.
Yeah, it was kind of the same for me. I didn't really know much about this. I think I had seen something about it from a YouTube video, and I thought, you know what, maybe it could be good. I have no idea. I didn't know what to expect, so I just gave it the benefit of the doubt with nostalgic, just middle of the road. And it'll be interesting to see if those predictions pan out. But first, let's get into the things we liked most about The Thief and the Cobbler, also known as Arabian Night. Let's kick up our
Best three.
best three, and let's start with our guests. Let's go with Drew first. What was one thing you actually liked? What was one thing you liked about The Thief and the Cobbler?
This is gonna sound odd because I know this was not in Richard Williams' original version, but I actually loved the thief's inner monologue throughout the movie. I thought it was some of the funniest bits throughout it.
Yeah.
In many cases where the story seemed to drag, this livened it up. It gave me something to kind of look forward to, even when the story was, well, it's very obvious the source material was going in a more silent and visual direction. And to be clear, I also watched the recobbled cut which is the fan edit that is supposed to bring it as close to the original version as we can probably get it to, or what was envisioned. And I fell asleep during the recobbled cut.
Long.
Wait, so did you watch that one first, or
I watched the Miramax, the Arabian Nights one first.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then I watched the recobbled cut because I wanted to see what the difference was.
Yeah.
And the recobbled cut was a little boring.
Okay.
And honestly, I compared it, I realized the thief's monologue was probably the part that I enjoyed the most.
Really?
Between the two versions.
Versions.
Jonathan Winters, I will say, Jonathan Winters was the voice actor they got for this. I thought he did good for what he was given.
And I'm convinced he must have been what's the word? He was making all of these lines up as he was just watching.
Ad-libbing. He was ad-libbing.
Yeah. That wasn't the word, but that's close enough. I'm half expecting he must have ad-libbed like 9 improv. That is the word I'm looking for. But I feel he must have improv like those entire lines, just watching what was going on and having a blast doing it. But that is one of the brighter spots of, I think, the Miramax version. But
so that part, I'll comment that actually took me out a lot. I was very confused. I think the biggest confusion was like, why is this so much of just an inner monologue? Why is he not? I didn't realize that him and Tak were supposed to be silent characters, and so I'm like, why does his mouth never move? Why are flies around him the whole time?
He does say a line at the beginning. I think it was Matthew Broderick who said, "Here's somebody who never speaks but always thinks a lot." And
which does make you wonder how Matthew Broderick knew that.
Oh, I missed that. I guess. Okay, interesting. All right.
Yeah,
it's the only explanation as to why he doesn't speak.
Gotcha.
But
so
in reality, neither character was supposed to speak until the very end when Tak actually has a line. At the
he
very
says,
end
"I love you."
Yeah,
spoilers.
Pretty much.
So I didn't care for
sounds
that.
like
but
James Earl Jones for some reason.
Wow. Yeah, it's very deep.
But I'm glad that you liked it, Drew. That's awesome. Jacob, what's something you enjoyed? Was it the John Winters inner monologue or something else?
I was more drawn to the epic animation style in this movie. It was so brilliant.
I see what you did there. You were drawn to it.
Yes, I was absolutely drawn to it. It painted with a very broad stroke and just it drew me into the story with the art. It was just being a visual artist myself. I love when they go into this. The depth of field goes this very broad, and your character's movement. I think in the animation process, the director himself was so meticulous of how the animation had to be done and how fluid and how smooth everything had to be. And he was like a taskmaster with everything. Had to be right, had to be correct. That's why this movie took so long to do, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
And it's just it was just like watching it for the first time, like, oh my gosh, where have you been my entire life?
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I will say, to add on to that, something I liked was the detail in the backgrounds was just so high. Like there's so much detail, especially in like the Baghdad city.
The city shots.
Really high detail. So I really like that as well. Paul, what's something you enjoyed?
I also, for my first one, are the backgrounds, the detailed backgrounds. Now, not all the backgrounds, because some of them got confusing and a little bit unnecessarily so, in my opinion. But the detailed ones, those were really cool.
Awesome.
Especially like the chase scene, the MC Escher one that almost causes like a seizure attack.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I was
may be talking more about that here in a minute.
Yeah.
But also,
maybe.
yeah. All right, we'll skip it later.
But what's something you wouldn't have skipped in this movie, Paul? I want to just go back to you. Go in reverse order.
Besides the backgrounds, my next is the animation. Some of the animation in this is incredible. Like when like the destruction of like One Eye's machine at the end.
Beautiful.
To know that was done around 1980 before computers. And so it was so smooth and it is something that people really hadn't seen that much before. You can see a little bit of it in some of I remember the Tom and Jerry cartoons way back when, Chasing Down the Hall. It seems like some of those are would be computer generated, but some of the animation in this is so incredible.
Got it. Jacob, you had mentioned you really liked the art and where was this your whole life? Was the animation something that made your like list as well, or did something else pique your delight?
So, as in a second like?
Yes, exactly.
AKA, what's your second like?
That's what I thought. That's what I
That's
thought.
a horrible segue. All right, thanks for bringing attention to it, Jacob. Fine.
All right, fine then. Fine, I'll leave. All right, no. My second like would actually be Zigzag of all characters. His design, the fact that he was voiced by the late Vincent Price, and it was just more like, whoa, okay. My first watching this film, I'll get into that later. But the idea, his character, his motivations, his voice, the way Vincent Price does that voice,
yes,
it was so just so villainy. It's just I was like, okay, there's the villain I like.
Yeah,
unlike the last episode me and Drew reviewed for our podcast,
Cellcast.
Yeah. Oy.
Thumbelina.
Our Thumbelina review.
Our Thumbelina review.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As of
Yeah.
this recording, it is not been released, but it will be by the time this episode comes out.
Oh, so go check that out.
Yes.
Good
Yes.
listener.
Yep.
I'm right there with you. I more on the Vincent Price side. I thought him as Zigzag was he's the most engaging character for me. I was really interested in him, though I still don't quite know if I got his overall motivation. Was he working with the One Eyes? Was it like a team up of opportunity?
At the
Definitely
end,
opportunity.
He worked for the One Eyes because the Sultan didn't want to give him Princess Yum Yum.
That's
and
right.
So he decided to betray them because his entire goal is to essentially take over the kingdom for unknown reasons.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
Other than the same reason Jafar wanted to take over the kingdom, he's the vizier who wants to rule.
This one's power.
Exactly.
Unlimited power.
Cosmic
Unlimited
power.
Anything in space.
Paul, what's something else you? I'm sorry. Never mind.
No, you can go right into my
No.
classic maker.
Drew. What's one more thing you liked before we get to our classic makers?
Well, since we've been giving Vincent Price so much love in this section, I'll continue.
All right.
I enjoyed Vincent Price. Vincent Price is probably like the brightest spot, I think,
Here.
in terms of acting throughout the entire film. I still don't know why he has to rhyme every line, but he's like one of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love Jonathan Winter's Thief, but this you can tell it's very much in the original original creator's thought process. And you can tell he's got the most thought put into his character, and that's really why I enjoy it. And plus, it's Vincent stinking Price. He's got the most iconic voice in like all horror movies. He's like, if you need a villain, slimy villain, you go to him. That's why Disney would come back to him to voice Ratigan in The Great Mouse Detective.
Just don't ever call him a rat.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah,
Don't
Vincent
call him
Price,
ever now.
definitely my second like.
Very good. Awesome. Well, let's get into the things we love the most about Thief and the Cobbler. Not the peach cobbler, like Bobo's saying. Cobbler as in shoe cobbler, Bobo. And I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying I really liked the character design of the One Eyes. It was interesting. Just they looked very villainous. I liked how they're all the same. I thought that was... They felt like this just overwhelming force that no one could stand up against, and I thought that was really interesting for an animated film like this to see such a large army, and which I don't think you'd even see that in live action of the day. So that was really cool to see all the One Eyes storming Baghdad. So that was my classic maker.
Nice.
Jacob, what did you love the most about this film?
Ooh, what did I love the most about this film? I could go on and on about just raving about the art style.
All right, then, Drew, what's the favorite thing you loved?
But no, be like you. The character designs. Be like they're so unique. They're so different because you could go back to like in the earlier eras where they'll be like. The design of the characters were so unique. They're different from everything else going on, which matches in some ways with the backgrounds, and I'll get that back in later. But the design of the characters were just so unique, and they kind of they took you. They weren't a realistic character design, but they were so cartoony and whimsical, and definitely like they would use the design to kind of accompany the character's personality. I thought that was very unique.
Yeah. Very cool. Before we get to Drew and Paul, I'm going to break in and say Dale's classic maker was Jonathan Winters as the thief because he was his hero throughout the movie. All right. Thief is your hero, Dale. Interesting.
Ding.
But very good. Biggest hindrance throughout the movie, but sure.
I mean, we could go either way with that. Drew, what would be the...
I was about to say he got the golden balls that was so coveted throughout.
He also lost them too, Paul.
But he got them at the end.
If he hadn't gotten up there and stolen them, it wouldn't. None of this movie would have been an issue.
But if he hadn't gotten them out of the machine, they wouldn't have been saved.
Sorry. I had a momentary flare up. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Drew, what's the thing you liked most about this film?
I love the surreal art and animation throughout the entire movie,
Yes.
but the two most beautiful spots, like y'all said earlier about the destruction of One Eye's giant machine, whatever the on Earth that thing is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And but most especially the chase scene when the cobbler is chasing the thief throughout the palace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a good short in and of itself, and I would have been happy.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
would have made an excellent short.
I think
An
it would have been
excellent
better
short.
as a short.
You know what? I think you might have something there.
But even not just that, but I mean even the animations, the fact that you can tell you've got perspective on like the lines, but you've got that flat texture on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That and it's the animation throughout this is most of the time. There's a couple spots where you could tell it was finished quickly and on a much smaller budget just to get it out the door.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of the original animation in this is really, really beautiful, nice, and honestly deserves better than it got.
Yeah. It deserved $750,000 at the box office.
I don't mean that. I mean it deserved to be finished.
Agreed.
Oh yeah,
And
that would have been cool.
that way I could give a better idea as to what maybe the original director was going for, because when I watched the recobbled cut, I was like, you need more story here, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that later for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
But before we get into it, Paul, finish this out. What's the thing you loved most about Thief and the Cobbler?
Well, I loved Vincent Price's iteration of Zigzag more than any of you because he was my classic.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Very fair. Anything in particular? Would you say this is your favorite Vincent Price voice acting role?
It's I for some reason it's been a while and I'm getting older, so I forget more. But I think I enjoyed this performance more than Ratigan. If I had to compare the two animated, don't know though.
Who does the Grinch? Is Vincent Price do the Grinch, or is that
No,
that's
the guy who did Tony the Tiger. Back
Yeah,
in
it's
the day.
Boris.
Yeah, I don't remember Boris Karloff.
There we go.
Oh, okay. My bad.
No,
Yeah.
Boris Karloff was. Yeah, no, it was Boris Karloff. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll believe you guys. I just couldn't remember, so I
I'd have to look at my notes from like back in December when we reviewed that.
Right.
For certain, but
Wait.
I think it's Boris Karloff.
Okay.
Grinch voice. Now I'm thinking like I know he did the songs.
It wasn't
did he
Orson
do the
Welles?
voice?
No, it's Boris Hang on. I want to get this right.
We want to make sure we get these details right on the movie we did review.
Yeah, Boris Karloff. Okay.
Boris Karloff is
yes.
but I don't think he's
No.
Tony the Tiger.
He's the voice. Thurl Ravenscroft
Thurl
is the singer. But
Sorry.
Boris
Okay.
Karloff
That's right.
did the Grinch.
And Ravenscroft is Tony the Tiger, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry
All
for
right.
the confusion.
All right. Let's get this back on course.
Yes, even I get things wrong. Francisco isn't the only one.
What? Oh my gosh. But you know what I didn't get wrong, guys? Something else I liked.
I think you did.
Geek Devotions. Geek Devotions is a collaboration of devoted geeks that are devoted to letting people know that they are loved. They produce a weekly geek culture-infused devotional, their podcast, Com Talk, and written articles, all designed to encourage and challenge people in the geek community, bridging the gap between their faith and their geekdoms. Find all their content at geekdevotions.com.
That's great, Francisco. But what does Geek Devotions have to do with this movie, whatever you call it?
Well, so there's a, would you call it a documentary on the making of this film called the Persistence of Vision? Is that what it's called?
Sure.
I think I didn't get around to watching it.
Yeah.
I think it's called The Persistence of Vision. And in it, you learn that Richard Williams was highly devoted
Yes.
some might say to a fault, to the perfection of the animation of this film. So
he's a multi award winner, including Oscars and Grammys, not Grammys, Emmys, and So he's
I'm sure he got a Razzie for this. Anyways,
what?
So,
no, because
anyway, hey, I'm talking now. It's my turn. I have the mic. Anyway,
saying it wasn't the first Razzie if he got one.
So he was very devoted, and Geek Devotions is devoted to letting people know their love. So it's like apples and apples right there.
Almost. Not quite.
More like apples and horse apples.
All right, fine, guys. How about some trivia about Thief and the Cobbler? Would that satisfy you?
Maybe.
Peach Cobbler. Did you all realize that this
apple cobbler?
That's what I was thinking. Apple cobbler.
Fruits aside, did you all realize that this movie went through multiple name changes, including The Thief Who Never Gave Up, The Cobbler, and The Thief once, and of course Arabian Night? My question to you all is, if you were in charge of naming this movie, what would you have called it? So let's start with Drew.
Oh, good night. No, that's not what I would call it.
Oh, okay.
This guy's not Arabian. He's good.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to mean?
I don't know.
Arabians are good?
No, it's a joke. Okay, Paul.
Oh, there are jokes now. Okay.
Oh, gosh. ITAC. All right.
Yes, because
Interesting.
it ends with attack to the eye.
I thought you were going with like iRobot, but okay, ITAC.
Just one eye.
Wow.
Many times as they said that.
Okay, Paul, how about you?
Oh, first of all, when I heard that they'd taken this movie away from the original director, and changed it, and then renamed it on top of that, I thought that that's like sticking a knife in the wound on top of things.
Yeah.
But then I actually watched it. I watched this version, which I think it's appropriately named Arabian Night, considering what they did with the story and everything, and added that into it. The Miramax version is definitely Arabian Night, as opposed to like The Thief and the Cobbler, because he's like the main one in there. So I actually thought, you know what? I think it was actually in good form to call it something else, because it was different than the original vision.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I came full circle, and I actually like the retitled Arabian Night.
Okay, so you would just have titled it Arabian Night. You thought that was good.
I thought that they did good with that.
All right, cool. From chat, let's see. Dale says Zig's Zag is what he would have named it. Ashley would have named it Dumpster Fire.
Wow. Jeez.
Ouch. And Jacob, I'm curious to finish this trivia section off. What would you have named or renamed this movie?
Unknown title.
The Arabian Nights that needed to get back to its original director?
That's not a good.
Oh yeah, that's
I know that.
That's totally getting the 750,000. Good job.
Great trivia, Francisco.
Thank you, Paul.
You could have just called it Kaleidoscope.
Yeah,
that is true.
That would have worked.
Now that we have had all our trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, our awesome rewinders, had about The Thief and the Cobbler.
Ashley Crumbitter says, "It's being hot garbage."
Whoa!
I get the feeling Ashley does not like this movie.
I'm getting that feeling too. The plot is just disjointed. The characters underdeveloped. Overall, taking over an hour of your life that you will never get back. The biggest regret being that you didn't watch Aladdin. Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Oh, jeez.
So
Nice.
you know what? I guess that's appropriate. That leads us right into things we didn't like about The Thief and the Cobbler. So let's spin up our
Worst 3.
worst 3 things, and let's start with Paul this time. I mean, let's start with Jacob this time. What's one thing you didn't like about Thief and the Cobbler?
Ruh-roh. All right. So my first dislike would be the lackluster songs. It's the two. I think it's like what 2 or 3 songs. This movie.
There's 5.
Yeah,
But-
3
There's
songs.
5.
But
There's
Jacob,
5 songs.
There's 5? I thought there was 3, but okay.
Jacob,
That's what I can
she's-
see. There's 3 of them.
When I double checked it, and the research said there were 5 songs. That may have been the first cut, and they only cut it down to 3 later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like the very beginning, and maybe during the credits there was another one.
Yeah, there was one of those songs that I know was moved to the credits for the Miramax version.
But Jacob, I gotta tell you this. If we don't have a song telling us that Yum Yum is more than just a body, she's a mind too, we won't know it because she does nothing to prove that.
That is true.
Absolutely,
That is so true.
Nothing to prove that.
What, she goes
Exactly.
out to the desert?
Wow.
The only
No,
thing,
to retrieve the.
Go
the only thing,
so and so. That's
no.
it.
The only thing Princess Yum Yum does is tell the brigands, "Okay, you're my royal guard now because
Yeah.
I'm your queen." Essentially,
That's
Exactly.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
that's about all she does in this movie.
Yeah.
Everything else, they had somebody else allow her to happen. So
But Paul, did you like the songs?
I like that. The song with the guys that they run into out in the desert.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
That
that's
is,
what happens
that
when you
is
don't go to
catchy.
school?
yeah,
It is
catchy in a way.
Yes. Yes.
yeah. But
And-
that wasn't. But the other songs I didn't care for.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be on board with that as well. Drew, what was something
Well,
you didn't like? Was it the songs or something else?
yes, these
Yes.
are discount Disney garbage.
Thank you.
What, this movie
Throw it in a
or just the
blender.
song?
Make some words. Boom.
I mean, for one thing, the 3 songs. Well, okay, the Brigand song, I do feel like some work was put into that.
Yeah.
But I
yeah,
could have sworn the Princess Yum Yum song and then the duet she has with Tack,
Mhm.
that could have been those could have been in any movie because they are so generic.
Mhm.
I mean,
How about
I-
Ants?
Yes, Ants could do this. I don't remember the characters in Ants, but I could see this happening there.
Toy Story.
Yes, if you're going to have well, maybe Toy Story 4 since
No, Toy
since-
Story. Buzz singing, "I am not a."
I am Mrs. Nesbit.
yeah, yes, with Mrs. Nesbit. I take it back. That would be funnier. While he's
That would be okay. I secede on that one. Yeah.
they're so. I could see any quote unquote couple that's obvious. The couple singing the song, no matter what the movie it is, it doesn't fit the movie at all. And this is part of the animation that was added, post Richard Williams, and you can tell because while almost all the Richard Williams stuff is animated on ones where every frame is a new picture,
Yeah.
all the stuff that was added for the songs and all that is animated on 2s, which means there's a slight difference in the frame rate.
Yeah.
Most people don't notice it, but I went, oh yeah, this is definitely much cheaper animation, especially since all she does in that first song is twirl around and talk
And
about
sing.
and sing. It's like, Jasmine did more than this
Mhm.
in her
Yeah.
song.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she let birds out of a
And
cage.
Thumbelina did more than this. and
Oh,
that's the
jeez.
movie.
You're right. Oh, my gosh. At least she had her own motivation.
Yes, I don't know.
She did something.
Yum Yum's motivation, I thought, was very poorly shown in this. In
Yeah.
either form of the movie, but
Yeah.
that's not my dislike. My dislike is the music is stupid and ridiculous and generic and could have been. And if it had been left out, it made a better movie.
Ooh.
Except if it's left out, then you fall asleep. So I don't know which of these ballads you want to pick.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Paul, let's get to something you didn't like about this film.
I mentioned that I liked the backgrounds, but
Yeah.
something that I didn't like were some of the other backgrounds. Like I didn't like it. It made sorry when the thing in animation, what they want to do is kind of like comic books. You should be able to tell very clearly what's going on in any situation. But there were times where, because of the background, I couldn't tell what was going on. Like when he's in the jail cell, it's like, oh, look at these walls. Like, why doesn't he just like put his hands up and climb up the walls? because that's what it looks like he could do. It looks like it's very skinny, but no, it's apparently too wide, or these big. I know you talked about perspectives and flats, and I think some of the scenes work well, but I think a lot of them don't work well. I think a good studio that's doing it well recently is Cartoon Saloon. They did like Wolf Walkers and Song by the Sea and The Secret of Kells. They do some amazing flat backgrounds that you can tell, like, okay, the perspective's off, but you can see what they're trying to do with the entire picture.
Well, yeah.
It looks good.
The animation, though, in those movies, even though I haven't seen them, but I know what you're talking about because I have at least seen commercials and clips and such. That is inspired by this movie. It's very painfully obvious it's inspired by the animation in this movie.
They do it better. So yeah,
I you know what, I'll sort of add on to that or tack on to that, Paul. I will say it would have made my list if I had another one. But yeah, there are so many instances where, like, the biggest culprit was this one part where it's sort of a wide shot. I think that, like, tax going into the city or something like that. It's a wide shot. The doors open. I think it's when all these teeth come apart in this interesting way.
Oh,
but
yeah.
you see into the city, and it's like, how do I describe it? It's like as if you were looking. Okay, you guys know when you've all seen Inception, I assume?
Yes.
In 2010. So you remember the scene where the city
kind of
is on its side, like it curves up and it's on its side?
Yes.
So that's what it looks like looking through this portcullis area, this gateway. It looks like all the inside of the city has like flipped up on its side, and people are like walking up the street, but it's on the wall. It is very, very strange to me. And so that... On top of, I know you guys said you like the character designs. I think, Jacob, this is one of yours. But I thought that and the settings, all of it was, I think it's just not my taste, honestly. It's just, it was very 60s, Don Bluth crossed with like MC Escher. It wasn't for me. Maybe it's just a taste thing. I didn't care for it. So. Well, that's just like on my end. Oh, go for it, Drew.
This would go into my next dislike. So if you want me to wait,
go for it. Yes, please.
Okay. Here's the thing. This movie, from what I looked at, most of the animation was done in the 70s and the 80s, and of course the rush to completion job in the 90s. Yeah. And boy, can you tell!
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that is like very nice, hand-drawn 70s, 60s, and 70s style animation. And then it goes into this 80s stuff where it's a little bit blockier. And it works kind of, but it doesn't. And you can tell the backgrounds were done at an entirely different decade than the characters were animated.
Agree.
A lot of times. And there are times where I just get a very big cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
$50 word. Because... you get hand drawn, you get CG, you get, and by CG I mean like early, obviously printed out on a tractor printer after running through
I was about to say they probably rotoscoped some of the stuff.
There is some rotoscoping, not a lot, but there is some rotoscoping, and then it's that cognitive dissonance that I get from the movie is what really pulls me out of it the most in terms of it's what makes me realize it reminds me of modern art. And I hate modern art.
I was about to say, because it's crap.
Like I said, modern art.
Yeah.
All right.
And postmodern art's just worse.
Yes.
And while I enjoy... This is opinions.
Oh, I completely agree.
Wait,
and while
this isn't a fact thing?
Oh my God.
There's a lot of subjective in what I'm saying.
Yes.
There are ways they could have made this work and work very well. But unfortunately, I don't... you get right down to it, this movie's missing a lot of polish.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that cognitive dissonance even worse.
I wouldn't say polish. I would say finishing and cohesion.
That's what I mean.
That's how I
cohesion.
Okay, all right.
This is this has very obviously been. If this were like a wood statue to give kind of a thing, you can tell there's a lot of intricate little carvings throughout most of the piece. but it's missing. I guess missing that coat of varnish to
Oh,
really seal it in. That's really more of what I'm thinking, more than polish. It's missing that
Gotcha.
final coat of varnish to make it complete.
Yes.
And it's that's what makes none of the stuff, I think, mesh together as well. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me, Drew. Jacob, would you say that internal, I'll call it anachronisms, like because from the different styles, or just that lack of cohesion made you're just like Liz, or was something else completely disjoined from that? Something you didn't like?
Well, I can see Drew's point with art, the expansion of time creating this and the technology available to them during the production. They would obviously try to use that during production, but I can see where the incohesion would kind of they would mesh in so many ways. I can see that now.
Yeah.
But I overall I still really enjoy the artistic style of the film.
Awesome. Okay. Cool.
One of the things it bugged me because the idea of the focus on this film was so just rapid. Rapid. It was just all over the place.
Oh yeah,
It's rabbits.
Yes.
Oh, it's fast moving.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
thought we were bringing up Rayman's Raving Rabbits for a minute, and I was confused.
Gosh.
No, I'm just getting confused with Roger Rabbit. But it's just you have a center focus, and then it starts going out, but then it starts to the focus starts to go away and be like, and then to me there's a lot of disjointed focus on this movie, and it's just it gives me more of a, it's like, oh, okay, so when I think it's the partner company who took over
The Completionist,
the Completionist
company, or whatever
Warner
it's
Brothers,
called.
I believe.
Brothers was the publisher, but I mean when it left Richard Williams, when he got taken off, it was put on
the people that actually animated
production company to finish animating it.
Yeah,
it was called the Completionist Board or something like that. It was literally made to complete the movie.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, just at that point, be like the general focus of the story had been lost, and so now there's they're trying to, lack of a word, cobble this movie back together to make a completed movie, and it seems they've shifted things around to make it more of something else that the director didn't want. And I have not seen the recobbled version of this yet, but it just seems there's a lot of this movie that's it's disjointed. There's no focus to it. There's points where there is focus, but then there's not focus.
You guys are building an amazing case toward my Tragic Maker. I appreciate this very much.
Oh, don't worry, this is building towards my Tragic Maker too.
Don't worry, Francisco. There's more to come.
Okay, good.
Because one of the things that I disliked was one of the things that almost early on, you start to hear all these sound effects with the thief bumping into things. And they are Hanna-Barbera, with the over-the-top zonk, honk, boing, and these are less serious sound effects. And so if you're not going to be serious with this, it gives the message that I shouldn't be serious about this film and not take it seriously either. And it's not one of those, oh, this is funny, laugh at it serious. Or not serious, like Hanna-Barbera. This isn't like Scooby-Doo Arabian Nights. Unfortunately, I've never seen that.
I haven't seen it either.
I like Drew have seen the recobbled cuts, and those effects are not in it. So it's something that Miramax added later. I don't know why. I think the movie's worse for it.
Well, it's either Miramax or Allied Filmmakers, because those two versions are different.
Right. There is. I haven't seen the
other one either, so I don't know where who added what.
But that was not a good addition, in my opinion. In fact, it made my second dislike.
Got it. Yeah, and that for me, the overall sound of this, I think I was so distracted by the visual components of this, which we'll get into here in a second, that the sound didn't really hit me. I did notice that sometimes the score, I felt like, wow, this is actually kind of a nice score, but it wasn't enough to even make my like list. The thing, though, that my second dislike, and then we'll get into our Tragic Makers for Thief and the Cobbler, and this probably goes to like Drew was just saying, this went from Richard Williams to this completionist company, but the blocking in this movie seems so all over the place, or not even all over the place, just so static. That's a better word, and non-dynamic. Like, for instance, it'll be like close-ups, like yum yum, tack, very close up. And then it'll shift to just medium shot where everyone's sort of on the same plane. There's no depth, like this character's moving here while this other one's moving back and forward. And then super wide shot. Like, oh, where's the character? Oh, there they are. What?
It doesn't help that Arabian Nights has only been released in DVD quality, so you can't really.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's
Good night.
No
That,
Blu-ray
that
receipt.
transfer was a piece of that's the biggest piece of hot garbage. Is that transfer? on DVD.
that is true. Oh my gosh.
So,
I mean, I couldn't even read the names in the credits. It was so bad.
I mean,
Well,
I
There
I
were
loathe-
those scenes where like you get the characters like going real close and real like very cartoony, like the eye gets really big or the mouth gets really big.
I think when it's just one and that's the focus, yes, and a little bit more when the chasing between Tack and the thief. But overall, like when we have boring scenes that are could have some
very
like
static. Okay.
they're very static. I mean, I loathe to do this, but I compare it to Disney films where in those shots, characters are doing something, they're moving around, there's a very similar scene in Aladdin where Jasmine and her dad are talking and she's moving back and forth. She's moving around in the scene as she's talking to her dad, moving to the pond, moving to the tiger. I forget his name.
Raja.
Raja. Yeah. She's
Voiced by Frank Welker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as opposed to this scene where they're just the princess or Princess Young, the dad, they're just like there in the scene. There's not a lot of moving back and forth. It's just right there. Which I think that was probably the style in the 60s, but it's jarring. Again, that goes probably more back to my taste that there wasn't very much dynamicism.
It is very hard not to compare this movie to Aladdin.
Oh,
because
yes.
It came out at the same time.
For one
pretty
thing,
much.
But
They're
you're
contemporaries,
since Miramax is owned by Disney, it is known that parts of this movie inspired Aladdin. And then Aladdin in turn inspired some of the quick finishes they did in this movie. So it is very hard not to compare the two, but at the same time, Aladdin had a lot bigger budget.
Yeah.
True.
And they were very far into the cap system with the painting at that point, so they could be a little bit more dynamic in their shots.
Well, I mean, that's all well and good, but we might get into that in our tragic makers. They're coming up now. I'm going to start us off, though, with the person that I feel like is the most sympathetic. I could be wrong. Sympathetic to this movie. Jacob, what's your tragic maker for Thief and the Cobbler?
Mine would be the fact that this film was literally ripped away from its original creator, who this was his passion. He loved this movie. Be like, he took nearly 2 decades to make this film. It was ripped away from him. The fact to be like, it would be like a child being ripped away from its mother's grasp and be like,
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, actually,
I was about to say, let him finish because don't worry, Francisco, I got your back on this one.
Okay, go for it.
But let him finish.
Yeah, go for it. I apologize.
All right.
Please finish.
No, you're good. You're good. The idea that the director who had passion just poured his soul into this film and it's taken away from him from another company that's basically like, hey, we're going to finish this film no matter what. And you have watching this be like, this seems so much of a Aladdin film. And it looks like the finishing company like, hey, let's just make it more like Aladdin. Be like, that was a good movie. That would had a lot of be like, hey, it's got all these great things. Hey, let's just make it more like Aladdin. And it just broke my heart when you realize that the original director just had maybe all these great ideas and it was really just snuffed. And it's just like, and it just makes me think of Aladdin when I watch this. And to think that this could have been even greater if they would have just allowed the director to have more time to put together.
And you know what? So Jacob, I would completely be on board with you, except for the fact that Richard Williams was the one who said, okay, I will take your investment money, we'll get it done in time, and then he didn't. So he broke the contract.
He signed the document that said, if I do not finish on budget and in time, you can take over. He
exactly
that.
He didn't have to take the money.
Nobody's twisting his arm.
Okay. Okay. I must have been misinformed on something.
No, he did that several times. He did that in the 80s. He was doing a deal with the princes in Arabia. Or that Middle East area, and he over budget by. He had a budget of $100,000, and he went over budget twice, and ultimately spent $250,000, and was late on each one.
Right.
Later, the same thing he did with. So
a Japanese company, I think, also did that too.
Yeah, one of the tragic stories we heard from animation class is that he did not want to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He was like, the animation, we did that in a commercial, but Steven Spielberg got a hold of him, and Steven, you're awesome. And he's a connoisseur of animation. He wants this guy on his project, and they said, we'll pay you, and Richard's like, no, I don't want to do it, but Steven knows about this passion project. They said, look, Emblem Entertainment, we put out Don Bluth's American Tale at the time, and the Land Before Time. They said, we will give you money and we will distribute it. And one of Richard's big thing was, look, I'm making this film, but I want it to be seen. Distributing costs a lot of money. And Steven said, you know what? We'll take care of that for you. But you got to finish on time. We'll talk about the budget later. That didn't happen. This happened with Warner Brothers as well, and that's when that's when he signed with Warner Brothers. Like, look, if I don't finish in time, then you take over. And then it's sad, but it happened.
And we'll get into probably the whys of that coming up. But I totally sympathize with that, Jacob. If you had this thing and then like you're working on it, and if you had the impression that they just took it away from him, that would have been tragic. But it was sort of his. It was his to complete or not, and so that was.
Okay, I got you.
At least that's what the documentary was said. So I have a lot of faith in that.
I didn't watch the documentary. I just went off what I read off Wikipedia, which you know how good that is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So good.
But yeah. I mean, if you're not following through with your deals, I mean, you get
that is true. That is so true.
Yeah.
And honestly, if this was really his baby, he would have done a lot better. You should have taken care of it a lot better than that.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you have one of these, and maybe Francisco's going to get into it. You have the artistic approach. Like, look, this is my masterpiece. If I can see an area where I want to make it better, you're going to, and this is what his approach was the whole time. It's like, that's why it took decades and decades. I'm going to make that better. But then there's the business end which is really weird because Richard Williams is known for producing all these animated shorts. He did commercials and all these things. He had a budget, he had a time, and he consistently did hundreds, if not thousands, of these little projects on time, in budget. He knew what he was doing, but he set aside that business part of his brain for this, and unfortunately reality hit in a way that probably didn't work out.
So go ahead, Jacob.
What it sounded like to me like the director himself, he had artistic goggles on, be like, this is my movie, I've got to do it, do it. And he signed all these deals, but he didn't realize that time was up. That time was coming short for him, but he was just more, I gotta get my movie done, and just poured everything into it. And looks like time ran out.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to my tragic maker, because I feel like it's gonna touch on a lot here. It's very broad.
Let me guess. The movie, it touches on everything.
When I saw those opening credits, it was over. I knew this was a tragic. No, that's not the movie itself. And I'll preface this by saying, watching Persistence of Vision, the documentary, actually made me be more impassioned in my feelings toward this movie. I'll say that. So I'm not giving away my final rating.
What is coming?
Okay, here's my tragic maker, guys. So, and a lot of this comes from information learned in this documentary. So Richard Williams says he references these artists like you become a master, then you do your masterpiece, your masterwork.
Right.
And he wanted this to be his masterwork. And he was so hung up, I feel, on getting all these. I was explaining this to someone earlier today, that I felt like he was trying to make modern art or more classical art, modern art. He was trying to make that into an animation. The problem is that when you have a Rembrandt, a Monet, a Van Gogh, it's one image and you can just study it for hours. There's lots of detail to it. There's lots going on that you can just like sit there and study. When you're watching an animation, so much of that detail is lost in the motion and it just becomes visual noise to, at least to me. It's so much is happening and I can't make a lot of heads or tails of it. And I think that actually speaks to like a lot of anime and even a lot of modern even just Disney animation in the same time period, that they're able to do so much stuff. And I think that's because they simplify a lot of that detail down so that you're able to actually just visually take in the information you need without all this extra distraction.
Well, it goes beyond the visuals. More than a movie, it's more than just visuals, because there's things like story arc and character
getting there,
development. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's that component. So he's trying to make this masterpiece. And then, like you were saying, Paul, he was very good at commercials, these sequences. That's what he sort of specialized in, but he wasn't able to transfer that into an overall narrative. Like people that were working with him were even saying that he was just trying to come up with storyboards even after most of the production was done. Like he didn't have a finished movie. He didn't know what overall story he was telling. And he even in the documentary, apparently referencing the Who Framed Roger Rabbit incident, he was telling Steven Spielberg, or not Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, the director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, hey, I'm your pencil, you tell me what you want to see and I'll draw it. And I was like, that is exactly the role you need to be playing, Richard. You are an amazing tool, amazing artist to bring to life someone else's vision that is a storyteller that doesn't have the discipline that you have. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have our specialties, we all have our talents. And so to couple someone who's great at animation and drawing with someone who's a great storyteller would have been fantastic. But he's essentially just coming up with all these beautiful sequences that don't really go together and come up with, you get this very sort of boring story that doesn't really make a lot of sense in a lot of places, at least for me. So so we have this animation that's too verbose, I'll say, along with a narrative that just is very flat, which that's so interesting. There's so much detail in the animation, but the story itself is very flat. So that's my tragic maker. And that the fact that he like worked employees to death pretty much really gnawed at me and got me irked. But that's not really the
Sounds like
movie's
Steve
fault.
Jobs to me.
So, if I can go ahead and give my
please
tragic maker,
do, Drew.
I want to, before I get into this, I want to say how much it pains me that I am going to agree with Francisco on this.
Whoa!
Because here's the thing.
That's what we call a victory, ladies.
No, it's not. No, here's the thing.
I'll give you a point.
1 point. All right, go for it, Drew.
One whole point versus Team Womp's millions is going to do so well. Anyway. I being a co-host of a animation podcast, it's obvious that I love animation. And there are parts of this that are absolutely, positively beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
However, I don't go to movies just to see beautiful pictures.
Yeah.
No matter how good in sequence they are.
You don't love Terrence Malick movies? What?
I don't know if I've even seen a Terrence Malick movie.
You're not missing anything. Go continue.
But here's the thing. I am a story guy. As much as I love animation, if you don't have a story to drive the animation or the live action, it's not going to make as big an impact.
Yes.
It's one of the reasons I prefer stuff like, if you look at Looney Tunes, I prefer the things like the Bugs Bunny and the Daffy Duck shorts or even Tom and Jerry to stuff like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, which are literally you can mix and match any of those bits of Roadrunner cartoons
with the
up,
thief.
and you would never be able to tell they were from different cartoons.
Yeah.
And it's because those cartoons have no actual story. It's the same shtick. It's Wile E. Coyote wants to eat the Roadrunner, and the Roadrunner's gonna, is not gonna allow that to happen.
Exactly. Yes.
This movie, while it does have a story per se,
Sure it does. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
it is very light. In fact,
Yes.
I will go so far and to say that it's even a lighter story than even Monty Python and the Holy Grail has, even though I still disagree with Francisco's opinions on that movie.
It's amazing
how
often that movie comes up.
It's an easy thing to bring up. In fact, another part that came to my mind was when I watched this movie, was like, this movie reminds me a lot of the opening credits to Monty Python, where it was at the end, it was finished at the last minute with no budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
And very blindingly too. But as much as I disagree with Francisco's opinion on Monty Python, I still say that as a story, this has less of a story than even that does. And the only
I don't know if I agree with that, but
you have bad opinions. We know this.
Oh my gosh. Continue though.
This is a movie I want to like because of how pretty.
Yeah. Absolutely, yes.
Allow me, if I may. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it is.
I want to love it because it's so pretty. But the problem is
that's a callback to my streams, by the way, in case some of you are like, I don't get the joke. That's something I said routinely about a certain game. So
yeah, it's all Greek to me anyway.
Exactly.
But I mean, the movie, even though there's these parts that like blow me away in the fact of the hand-drawn animation, the amazingness of it, the guy needed a script writer to focus this story in, and yes, that does mean some of those spots are not you're gonna have to cut out. That is so meticulously well done. But if you don't have a story, you don't have a movie.
Right.
Exactly.
And while there are obviously differences of opinions on how much story some movies have, this I just don't feel has enough story to keep me engaged with the film.
I can see that.
There is probably going to be a point where we will review this on Cellcast.
Yes.
But to be honest, I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Do you think you'll do the cobbled together version instead of the Miramax version if you were to do it?
I actually want to hold off because the recobbled cut that I saw, I think, is the fourth version that the fan has done.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And he's apparently working on an HD version.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
I would wait to see that, or there is rumors that some of the people at Disney who technically own the footage at this point may make another pass at making a better cut also, but I don't know how true any of that rumoring is.
Okay.
But at the same time, I would hate to see someone try to do this digitally because you'd nearly have to redo the whole movie.
Yeah.
And that may not work as well.
Guys, you know what we need?
That.
We need Thief and the Cobbler 2049. That's what we need.
Or just make a new movie with the same story, but keep the parts of the animation that worked well and and just make a better story that fits those bits of animation.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they tried to do with Arabian Night.
Yeah, they failed miserably.
Oh.
I'm just saying make it good.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get it, Drew. And Paul, let's go to you. What do they need to make? What did they need to make good for this not to have a tragic maker for you?
Well, unlike my co-host here, I didn't consider the cobble cut or the I looked at Arabian Night, the Miramax version, alone, and just thought, okay, what do I don't like most about this movie? And unfortunately, whoever brought up the thief was my biggest dislike.
That is fair.
Is because, okay, it's not the thief of the character, it's Jonathan Winter's like I said, he did a good job, but I think he was totally miscast because this character is a skinny guy, I doubt it doesn't seem like that deep voice would fit such a skinny guy.
I could see that.
And then he's rambling throughout the whole film, and he's talking about modern day stuff, which just like Aladdin, I'm sure they thought, hey, it worked for Aladdin. Well, it didn't work for Aladdin.
Agreed.
It was like, these boots were made for walking, and talking about Churchill, and like he's talking like a sports announcer and referencing Disneyland, all thousands of years before that ever came about. It's a total disjarring, and I think the movie is worse off for it.
As much as I liked the thief character in this because of the comedy, I will say it works. The anachronistic jokes make less sense here than they do in Aladdin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like
I can see Genie having knowledge that the rest of the people would in the future. I don't see this with the thief. I don't care how smart he is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And I agree that it's time that we
can finally stop talking about this.
all our target information into the firing computer. Alice, do you, Alice, have a firing solution for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo at the ready. On your mark.
Do we rate Thief and the Cobbler, also known as Arabian Night, a classic? Would recommend anyone go see this, whether or not they've seen it before. A nostalgic, it's worth your time rewatching if you've seen it as a kid, or maybe you remember liking it and you want to experience one of the other cuts. Maybe then it's nostalgic. Or do we rate it a tragic? It's not worth anyone's time today. If you've never seen it, don't go see it. And if you have seen it before and have fond memories, don't sully those memories with a rewatch. So let's start with our guests. Let's start with Drew first. What is your final rating for The Thief and the Cobbler?
I'm going to admit I was a little torn on this pretty much up until this moment. Because the animation in this is so good, I would suggest people watch it for that purpose. However, this is not about the academic reasoning about why you should look it for educational purposes. If you like animation, check it for that anyway. I will say that. However, if you're just looking for a good movie to watch on a Saturday night or Friday night when you should be watching Retro Rewind, and you think I'm going to try The Thief and the Cobbler, I'm going to say no. Do not put The Thief and the Cobbler in, because as beautiful as this movie is, it is unfinished and it is not handled well. There's even the parts that Richard Williams did has issues in how it's presented. So no matter how I look at this outside of the academic and the educational, I have to rate this film a tragic.
Tragic. Ooh. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Jacob, would you cook a thief cobbler?
Ew.
Yeah, no. That'd be one nasty pie. No, I would definitely I was torn like Drew was. The fact that like being an artist, be like loving the visuals and the artistic modes and the different styling and everything. I love that part about this film. And the story itself is so disjointed, and you have so much like problems with everything going on. I'll definitely give it a nostalgic.
Nostalgic? All right.
Nostalgic.
Totally fair. Paul, what's your final rating for this film?
First, I want to say I'm so glad that we have both Drew and Jacob, who are connoisseurs of animation, helping us review this movie. So they know what they're talking about. They have an eye for it. So I really
go check out the Cellcast, cellcast.podbean.com.
That being said, I'm going to have to highly disagree with them, and that I did not have a hard time in reviewing this movie a tragic.
Oh my God.
thought you were gonna go classic flying. I'm like, where are you going with this? Oh, okay.
I was about to say this does not fit anything we've talked about.
Yeah. If you're a quote unquote normal person, avoid this movie. Even if you're an animation buff and you love animation, I would say this movie is tragic. Now you can watch, especially the cobbled cut. I have it in HD. It's out in there in HD, but maybe you meant 4K. True, but
I think it's when I saw the HD was upscaled. A native 1080p.
Tell me when it's VR. Okay, continue.
Anyway, even if you're an animation student, this movie is no matter which version you watch, it's slow and boring. But the visuals are nice, especially in the recobbled cut. If you're gonna watch this for the visuals, just forget Arabian Nights and watch the cobbled cut. And highly tragic for me, unfortunately, because of this. I like these guys. I wanted to like this, but it was so hard to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mince words. Tragic, all the way tragic for me. I didn't enjoy this. It was hard to get through.
I think Jacob's having a heart attack over here.
Oh, poor Jacob.
I got attack in the heart.
That's totally fair. Attack in the heart. You got a heart attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
You give cartoons a bad name.
Wow.
I think they give themselves a bad name, or at least this one.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But so according to the Retro Rewind podcast, we rate The Thief and the Cobbler a disputed tragic film. We won't recommend anyone go see this, whether or not you've seen it before. We still appreciate our patron, Mr. Lost, for picking this.
No, I am very grateful because I've been wanting to watch this, especially the historical impact.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Totally.
It's a good excuse for us to get around to watching it too.
Exactly.
We've got too many films we still really want to do that we haven't started getting to the bad stuff yet.
Yeah.
So, the weird stuff. I've got one I'm looking forward to, but I haven't.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There's some redeeming qualities about this film, but
that's
Retro Rewind
animated version.
Retro Rewind podcast rate. I'm talking now. Retro Rewind podcast rates.
I'm talking now too.
A disputed tragic film, but now it's time to get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
20XX.
Comsat online. Receiving incoming transmission.
Feels good to be back, but we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1993 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Jared Holzhauer, Deborah Powers, Brian Keane, Patrick Hicks, LJ Lowry, Chris Cowan, Geek Devotions, The Untold Podcast, James Kennison, Drill the Cellcast. Oh, you're right here! Ashley Cronenbitter, Pastor Dewson, Kenneth In, Redeemed Otaku, That's Our Babo, Josh Adams, D. Tungsten, Andy Lewis, Jeff, The Dapper Man Reviews, Tony from the Retro Jays, Mr. Lost, Daryl Hafner, Rosie, in addition to 7 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts going. And if you want to help us keep flying for as little as $1 a month and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to start.
This stream is sponsored by PaulJPowers.com.
And while we're thanking people, we also want to give a big, not tragic hug. Drew Dodgen and Jacob Heron for... Sorry, is that how you pronounce your last name, Jacob Heron?
Heron, H-E-R-O-N, like the bird.
Excellent. All right. Thank you both for supporting us with your thoughts on The Thief and the Cobbler / Arabian Nights with us tonight. Let's go alphabetically and start with Drew. Where can people find you online? Is there anything cool you got going on?
Well, I have been streaming recently. On Saturdays, I've been playing Super Mario RPG. And then on Mondays, I've been streaming Dragon Quest XI, which apparently I am now halfway through.
Oh, cool.
Which was a bit of a surprise because everything I was looking at originally made me think I was 2/3 of the way through.
More to
And
look
if I was
forward to.
playing the original Dragon Quest XI, that would have been correct, but I'm not. I'm playing the definitive edition, which added a bunch of extra stuff I didn't realize.
Nice.
So
okay.
I've
Bang
probably
for
got
your buck.
another couple. I've probably got another couple months on that in this
Okay.
game that I didn't realize was coming. But I've been doing that, and then of course we've got the Cellcast. I'll go ahead and plug for both of us.
Yes.
We review animated and movies and TV shows. Yes, I actually do still. We do still do TV shows. Yes, I'm a little slow at getting those episodes out. I get distracted. My apologies. We will finish Tangled the series eventually.
We'll get there when we get there.
Exactly.
Just like our old podcast used to say. But we record that every Tuesday night on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube, assuming our services are nice, and I've still got to figure out that issue. But yeah, other than that, just check out Drew's photo bin to see some photography that I've been meaning to get done. So yeah, I think that's everything.
All right, cool.
Nice.
And Jacob, where can people find you? And is there anything cool you got going on?
Right now I do. I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years right now. I do Jacob's Daily Art Corner. This is my personal art page where I draw each and every day. I do pencil sketches. I do ink. I do color, which would be a Coptic marker to different range of colors. It's just trying for me to become a better artist. And I've had over the time be like, I've improved more. So I continue to do it. And I do the art. I do the cover art for the Cellcast. I try to each and every week.
Yeah.
And other than
Sometimes
that,
I have to punt.
yeah, sometimes he has to punt. But other than that, it's just trying to work on projects that have been in the works for nearly 20 years and hoping to get that off the ground. I can't really go into any details of that, but hopefully to start getting that off the ground fairly shortly.
Sorry, I'm just gonna have to break the
NDA.
Break it. Yeah, the NDA. Jacob is working on Thief and the Cobbler 2.
All right.
The webcomic.
The webcomic.
Princess Yum Yum's baby.
Oh my word.
gosh.
Gumdrop.
Wow.
It's Gumdrop.
Oh my.
Surprise, the father is not Tack.
Oh my goodness.
Shocker. Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you, Drew
Scandalous.
and Jacob and my Arabian Night, not so Arabian Night, friend Paul, and all you rewinders, new and old, for another fun voyage with us.
You're welcome. And you can find me, pauljpowers.com, at pauljpowers.com.
And find me on
I've been
Discord
there.
for show announcements or just to say hi. Join us there at retrorewindpodcast.com/Discord.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box, a curated collection of podcasts, videos, and articles that will provide you a balanced meal of content. You will find culture celebrated for its past and future, satirized for its extremes, explored in study, and created anew in story. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
Thanks, Nathan. And as he said, we are now part of Culture Box Media Network. Find all our shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media. And with that, Captain, we are on final approach to base, and I was about to say the 3 golden balls are secure, but nobody knows what we're talking about when we're referencing that.
So those didn't even come up in this movie. In this episode.
Wow. And thank you, EXO, and thank you all for listening. We pray you are more joyful today than when you first hit play. But like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for The Sandlot. Oh, joy. Our next episode of the Retro Rewind Podcast.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to nav point Omega and return to base.
Ooh, Mom, what are you doing here?
What am I doing here? What are you doing here? You never visit, you never call. Have you got a goil yet? Come on, what? You look skinny.
Boy, I feel bushwhacked after reviewing that movie.
Speaking of bushwhacked, if I can say that word, let's continue our review of Firefly.
Ship like this, be with you to the day you die.
Retro.
Because it's a death trap.
The pod of rewind.
Pretty cunning, don't you think?
They were robbed of time, young indie made them poor. Burnt out on dullness, what was it all for? With Firefly now, what reviews will they find? The hero of time, Retro of rewind.
We gotta go to the crappy town where I'm a hero.
You gotta watch live for Paul's just disdain for that intro.
I'm going to appreciate that opening probably better, maybe worse, when I actually get to whatever episode that's from.
Yes. I think that's actually the next episode, Jamestown. But yes, welcome to our review of Firefly. We're going through each episode this year, culminating in our Christmas episode of the movie Serenity. But this time out, we are covering the third episode. If you count the pilot Serenity. Paul, will you give us the technical specs for that episode, please?
Knew I was forgetting something. Timeout.
See, I didn't have any Edna modes this whole episode. I didn't have one.
Edna mode.
Oh, sorry.
Edna mode. And guests.
Because we have our guests here.
Yes.
Sorry, folks.
No worries, Paul.
What is this? Firefly. That's what we're doing now.
Yes.
Firefly.
Yes.
Take my hand. Take this thing.
Take my life. Take my land. Take me where I cannot stand.
I was making a joke, Francisco.
Jokey Jokerson.
Take my love.
Yes, that's
my land. Take me where I cannot stand.
All right, we'll stop.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
I know, Coffee. I know. Okay, go for it.
All
right.
Copyright. That's the word I'm looking for.
Bad timing.
And the dog has it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Still Edna. Still the same
Time
Edna. So anyway, how's it going?
Anyway, going well.
Exactly.
So what's funny is, I was thinking when I was thinking of doing the intro song, because I didn't just want to sing it. I can sing it, but I didn't want to just do that. I wanted to do some a little more creative. And I was thinking I could do something with the music and just rewrite different lyrics and sing to those. But I was like, I can't find just the music by itself. Come to realize, watching this time, the end credits are pretty much the opening song without lyrics. So I could have just used that. But too late now. I already invested in.
I would mess with you on this, but I'm fairly certain I've made the same mistake a number of times.
Oh, okay.
I've been
good.
doing stuff, so I
Good.
can see myself doing that because
I'm in similar.
I have a tendency just to turn it off as soon as the end credits start. So
exactly.
I didn't even listen to them.
Yeah. Let's see. Baba says, watch The Thief, watch The Cobbler, watch movie I Cannot Stand. Okay.
No, it's watch The Thief, The Cobbler.
Oh, he's doing the lyrics. Oh, I thank you. I did not get that. Yes. Bravo to you, Baba.
Zigzag talks and rhyme for no good reason, yo. I don't know.
Wow. Better than I could have done, though, probably. Let's see. I'm trying to think. So your guys' did you say what your next episode was? And I just
Thumbelina. I think it came up 2 or 3 times because that's
no, the next one you're recording.
Oh, the next one we're recording. No, that is Weathering with You.
Yeah.
Is that's an anime, right?
That's an anime. It's from the same
cool.
director who did Your Name.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that also the same director that did Voices of a Distant Star?
Yes. I had to look that up because I just found out that G Kid's got all his old movies too that were originally with ADD.
Really?
So
okay, cool.
I may be expanding my collection.
Are they going to do cool steelbooks for him?
I don't know.
Well,
it is G Kids. It is G Kids. So and they did that for the Ghibli stuff. So there's nothing that says it won't happen. Now that being said, Your Name I think is still at Funimation. So
oh, okay, that'd make.
But Your Name is
probably a thing. Okay, cool. I haven't
Funimation
seen...
does not have money for steelbooks.
Fine. Well, they're being bought by Crunchyroll, is why.
Well, no. They're actually owned by Sony, so you think
I
they
know.
would have that? They're buying Crunchyroll.
No. It's the other way around. I heard.
No.
Yes. Go look it up. Go look it up.
No.
I've looked
Go
it up.
look.
Energizer owns Sony.
AT&T is selling Crunchyroll to Funimation via Sony.
Via Sony.
I'm going to look it up. I heard through reliable sources that Sony has them both and is going to close down Funimation in lieu of having Crunchyroll be the main brand.
I doubt that.
All right. Well, we'll see who's
I'm just
right.
saying I doubt it.
We'll
I'm
see
just saying
who's
I doubt
right.
it. I could
Would you
see
like
them combining the streaming services because having two streaming services is stupid. But then Sony really needs their own at this point anyway. So
We'll make a bet. If I
don't
win,
bet.
I get your Voltron, Lego Voltron. If you win, you get me saying, Drew, you're right.
Oh yeah, that sounds so
totally fair.
This
in
is
20
also one of those points where I have learned it's a very good thing I'm not a betting man, as I tend to lose. But I have not heard anything about Sony wanting to close Funimation.
All right, that's fair.
But
I heard one of them was being bought by the other, and that
think
one of them was going to be combined into one.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see them maybe turning it into like Crunchy Fun or something, but they're both very big anime brands.
You know, in 20 years, Disney will own it anyway. So
well, true, because they're going to buy Sony, and
True.
That's the end of it. Because for no other reason than to get Spider-Man back.
True.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Anyway, are you ready, Paul?
Yes.
With the technicals. Okay. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
All right. So watching them in DVD order, we're reviewing episode 3 titled Bushwhack, which originally premiered September 27th in the year 2002. Do you want to give us a one-sentence synopsis of the plot, Captain?
Yes. So the crew of Serenity comes across a floating derelict ship. They found out later was taken over by Reavers, who left a survivor that then wreaks havoc on the Serenity crew and an Alliance vessel.
I love my captain.
Thank you. I mean, I love me too, but anyway, let's get into the things we liked, our classic makers for this episode of Firefly. Then we'll get into our tragic makers, then the character we related to or liked the most in this episode, and then whether or not we would continue watching the series if this was the only series we'd watch. But real quick before that, I've seen this all the way through before. Paul's seen most of it all the way through.
Correct.
Jacob and Drew, have you seen this series before, or is this your first episode ever seen of Firefly?
So this is not my first episode.
Okay.
I did not learn about this series until Serenity was going into theaters.
And that's common. Yeah.
It's very common. And if you remember at that time, it was not exactly very easy unless you lived in a major metropolitan area to actually go back and watch a show.
Yeah.
Because no streaming was not a thing back then. And my local movie rental place, which was not Blockbuster, because Blockbuster never came to my town, did not ever have this. So by the time I got to a point where I could watch it, I think I actually rented it from Netflix through their disc service. That tells you how old this is.
Yes.
I think I rented a disc, the first disc, and I watched part of that Serenity, the pilot. And I say part because there are parts of that I remembered when I rewatched it to keep along with y'all. But there's a lot of it I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and I can tell you the problem I had with that point is that it had already been so hyped up. It already was not living up to the expectations I had.
Yep.
And plus, that's when Star Trek was still it was still an Enterprise era, and I am nothing if not loyal to fandom sometimes.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm a little more open now, and this is very much a different style because it's definitely more dystopian than Star Trek has ever tried to be.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that's why I didn't do it then. However, back when I was still working at Walmart, I bought the disc set I have now, but with my associate discount, and then it sat in the shrink wrap up until about a month, January, when
Really?
I got ready to follow along with y'all.
That's awesome.
So I have seen Serenity Part 1 and 2 and Train Job now, along with this movie, and that's along with this episode, and that's as far as I am so far.
Okay.
Nice.
Very cool.
I am now finally watching this for the first time.
Well,
Very
welcome
cool.
aboard.
Yes. How about you, Jacob?
Well, going into it, I think when I started hearing about it, I didn't technically hear about it. Be like, when I started hearing about Firefly, all I heard was brown coats, brown coats. Be like references here and there, because a bunch of my family and friends were just brown coat nuts. Absolutely loved Firefly.
Yes.
And they're like, Jacob, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. What are you doing with your life? Watch Firefly. And like the tragic story, like the fact that like it's only 13 episodes.
13 episodes. Yeah.
And Disney canceled it, or not Disney, but Fox.
It was
Fox.
fully Fox, though.
It was Fox who canned it, because apparently Fox doesn't like sci-fi.
Fox didn't know what to do with sci-fi back then.
That is true.
Although some could say the same about the Orville now, but that's beside the point. Continue.
So a couple of years later, I'm buying a movie lot from a friend of mine, and she has the entire collection of Firefly. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy that. Be like, they'll finally get off my back about you have to watch Firefly. So I started watching it. I think it was like a year ago. I started watching, and I got like halfway through it, and of course I get distracted by something. Go figure. And so when it came to this review, I was like, you know what? I don't know where that box set is right now. It's probably in a box somewhere. It's like, why don't I just find it on Hulu and watch it there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I watched episode 2 to understand maybe some context clues of what was going on in this episode.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So, given all that, what was your favorite thing about this episode, Bushwhacked? I'm going to start with Paul.
My favorite moment of this episode that's my favorite thing, is a moment when the captain is back on Firefly with who? It's not the Federation. Who are
the Alliance?
The Alliance.
The Alliance. Yeah. Following him, and then he goes into the corridor, and there's the brother and sister who the Alliance is looking for.
Yes.
And you think, oh no, like they're gonna be caught, but then they're not. So that was my favorite moment.
Okay. All right.
That tension of, oh my gosh, and everything's together.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
Okay,
I totally get that. Get that. Drew, what was your favorite moment, or just your favorite thing about this episode?
One of the things I like about this show in general is the fact that a lot of times I cannot guess what turn they're going to go in from scene to scene. Not because it's not coherent, but it's not that. It's just, every once in a while they will do something, like, for instance, this is not this one, but in the Train Job, where they're talking to Crow and they're saying, and they give him the deal, and he says, I'm going to, you can keep that, I'm going to do it, and he just kicks him into the engine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was good.
Example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This one, my favorite part of that, because I was not expecting the entire way this went. Throughout the whole episode, Mal is, or the second half, once the Alliance shows up, he's pretty much telling the captain of the ship, he's told the truth the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
But the captain does not believe him. He's like, oh yeah, these are a bunch of crooks, bunch of criminals. And he says, and at the very end, when the guy who turned into the Reaver finally attacked, and the fact that the captain just does everything that Mal said to do at the end and just blows the ship up and everything. It's like, okay, I just love that, because there was a point there where they're getting into this, and for whatever reason, I had to pause. I don't remember what it was. And I just got curious, like, I wonder how much of this episode's left, because there's not much. As the story has been going on a while, it's got to end sometime. And I looked, and I had 2 minutes left in the episode. And I thought, how on earth are they going to wrap this up in 2 minutes? So I went ahead and played it. It's like, oh, that was strangely well done.
Yeah.
In a way I was not expecting.
That's funny.
I can definitely see why people like this show.
Yes.
Even though it goes against like 90% of how I think sci-fi should be done. But anyway.
Yeah. It plays with your expectations.
It is definitely more
guessing,
Western than a sci-fi
yes,
setting than
absolutely.
than a pure sci-fi.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what throws me off sometimes. But anyway.
Oh, sure. Jacob, what was something that you really liked? What was your favorite thing about this episode?
I loved when they boarded the abandoned vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the hard start you get into the episode, they're playing ball, and all of a sudden there's a proximity alert go off, and it was like, okay, and when they get onto the ship, it's instantly you get a Ridley Scott alien film vibe go on to it. And it's just like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? What's going on? And they going through it, and by the end of it, they're like, Mel kind of figures it up, be like, oh, and exactly what they're like, and they pop the view goes up and all the lights go up, and it's like, oh, the bodies are hanging from the raptors. I'm like, oh, this is clever. Oh, this is genius. And it's like, there's your introduction of the Reavers, even though I've only seen like half the season. I've watched Serenity for some reason. I'm like, oh, that's what Reavers are? Oh crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that whole intro was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it also gives me Star Trek 2 Wrath of Khan kind of vibes when they get on the station.
Did you really just say, after I beat it into your skull, that it's pronounced Trek? Did you really just say it was Star Trek?
I didn't
possibly
pick up on that.
Maybe.
Let's stay on track here. Let's stay on the Star Trek. So the thing I liked most about this was the interviews that the captain of the Alliance cruiser has with all the different characters, and you get a good flavor, especially if this is like your first episode. Like the first few episodes are sort of like mini pilots in themselves, like reintroductions of these characters. Because in TV you don't know, back then, not these days, but back then you didn't know when someone was going to catch an episode early on. So, but I just liked like how Jane was very silent. He didn't say anything. How Kaylee's just going on and on about how the Serenity is not a piece of junk and like confusing the Alliance officer. And Zoe's just like, yeah, find the lights. Yeah, I fight with my husband too sometimes. It's just like, it's a great insight into each of their characters. So I love that the most about this episode. But there are certainly things not to like about this episode, and I'll just segue into the thing I didn't like. This is actually one of my probably least favorite episodes, just because I feel like it tries to be too serious, and after the first time of seeing it, you sort of, for a couple reasons. First, I think it tries to be, you're right, Jacob, it tries to be alien, and I feel like it's just, you don't have enough time to build enough tension for it to be really purely like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I think it does a good job in the time it has. But, and second is that in the overall lore, Reavers aren't made this way. Like if you go to the movie, it's a completely different thing. And I'm not going to spoil the movie in case you're like watching along, building to the movie. But the way they talk about how Reavers were sort of made in this episode, where they got out to nothing in space and became that nothing, isn't how it works. So that's a little disjointed in terms of the overall lore.
I don't think it is, actually, because we're not hearing the truth in this about how the Reavers are made. You're hearing theories and legends as to where the Reavers come from.
Yeah, but
Mal doesn't know anything about the Reavers any more than really we do. He's just got a little bit of extra.
He knows enough to recognize it.
Yeah, he enough to recognize it, but he doesn't know about the origins any more than we do. So he's just going off the stories he's told, the legends he's been told.
No, I think Francisco's right. It's the writing.
It's not what they explain in here about the lore of where the Reavers come from is not meant to be, this is where the Reavers come from.
Well, it should be.
Blank.
It should be, Drew. It should be that.
Come on. Stop wasting our time then with these lies.
It's a TV show that was originally written to go more than just the 13 episodes we got.
It was.
That's true.
That's for sure.
What the movie... Anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, the movie was supposed to be like a whole season, essentially, a whole season arc. But,
right.
Right. That would have explained it better.
Yeah. But let's go to Drew. What's something you didn't like about this, other than my opinions about Reavers?
Oh, I'm just going to give you a hard time, Francisco. Just
oh
because
my
it's
God.
fun.
Because it's easy.
But anyway, like I said, I'm loyal to my fandoms, and Star Trek is always my first love.
Sure.
And so there's a thing about that aesthetic I am going to prefer in general.
Yeah, okay.
But here, I just want to point out that even though I know the reasoning why they don't use sound in the space scenes for anything, because you don't have sound in space. There's not enough material for the sound to reverberate.
In space, no one can hear you complain about this show.
Right. And I get that since we're out far away from the sun, that it makes sense that there's not a whole lot of light here to bounce off of the ship.
Exactly.
I understand that.
Yes.
What I don't like is the fact that those two things, coupled with the fact that this CG that they used for this ship, for the ships in the series, does not hold up very well. Just because it holds up better than Babylon 5. Which I'm sure is going to get me. I'm sure it's going to get me a lot of people mad at me for that too. But all of that stuff,
I agree.
All of that stuff coupled together almost makes it feel unfinished.
Oh,
it's just this is my opinion.
Yeah.
The advantage that Enterprise, which was the Star Trek series around the time this came out, has over this is since they were fully lighting it and they were having the sound. The difference in the CG, I felt, is a little more. There's a little more give to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes it feel more like it's real, because every time we don't go to a space scene, and I'm not hearing sound effects matching up with the ship like I'm expecting it to, I feel like there's something wrong with my set, or there's something wrong with the DVD. It pulls me immediately out of it. And I have to remember, no, that is the artistic decision that they decided to go with to keep this more realistic.
And
with with the physics of this, I get that.
You're not having PST TV from the Thief and the Cobbler with it not being unfinished.
No, this is. I had a whole week between when I saw Thief and the Cobbler in this.
Okay.
So it was just ripe for the picking.
The fact that it matched is purely convenience.
Okay.
All right.
In coincidence.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I threw you off.
No, it's just the part that really threw me the most is when at the very beginning when they dock with the ship.
Yeah.
And you see the booby trap come over and connect. I at first thought that looked like an octopus type monster that was just poorly animated. Connecting to, and then I kind of let it go because no, that's just the poor animation of the umbilical connecting in. That's just so that because later on, like almost immediately after that, you see the Serenity actually turn on the power systems and get everything going up, and I'm assuming turn the oxygen back on so they can take off their helmets and make one of my favorite punked scenes in probably recent television watching.
That was good.
But it took until they actually said booby trap for me to realize, oh, that's not even supposed to be on the ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I could not tell that from the CG. There was nothing that and the CG made it look so clunky. I wasn't even sure Reavers were what was coming up, even though I knew Reavers existed. I thought maybe we had some kind of weird octopus monster from deep space that somehow latched onto the ship and caused everyone to, and somehow sucked everybody out of the ship. I had another story building in my mind until they explained what was going on.
I think that's on purpose. I think it was a misdirection.
I don't know. Maybe I had Cthulhu on the brain. I don't know.
So, Drew, obviously, if you had ran like the lore and been on like the browncoats.net, you would know that that Joss Whedon said that there's no aliens in this space thing. So obviously it wasn't that. So I don't know where you got this whole octopus thing from.
I'm watching blind. I am intentionally watching this blind because I want to give this show the best
I
can give me 20 years later.
No, they're not.
And so I don't even care about there not being any aliens. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this show had gone on to a point where Joss Whedon left the show to go work on, I don't know, what was his next show, Dollhouse?
Dollhouse, yes.
If then somebody else came in, took over the show and say, okay, now we're going to have bug aliens come in and they're going to be happy, and they're going to make first contact. I could see this happening.
All right.
And we're going to introduce 3 songs, and we're going to have Ferris Bueller do the voiceover.
Yeah, new animation of the whole bit, and make this more like Aladdin. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
You don't know how many times I was watching this, watching Thief and the Cobbler, expecting, when's he going to say, that's a lot of fish?
Where's that from? I don't get it.
That's from Godzilla.
Oh.
98.
Okay.
In one of the stupidest lines
because
in
Matthew
movie history.
Broderick says it. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Like, that's a lot of
now I'm
fish.
making the connection.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Paul,
would you like to play a game? Anyway, moving on.
What's the thing you hated the most about this episode?
I don't like the commanding people not acting like commanding people. I understand in the case of Mal, at first going aboard the ship with his first commander, whatever she is.
XO. Her XO. His XO, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, it's a tight crew. Look, you learn from Star Trek never to beam down the captain to the planet, you know.
Someone tell that to Captain Kirk.
Right, but I understand it's a small crew, so I let that go. But
sure,
what really bugged me is the is it the Alliance? Yeah, the Alliance, the main guy over the station, or is he just?
I think he's over the station.
Is he an interrogator? Okay. Why is the main guy interrogating, and why is the main guy going on the away mission to clean up the ship? It wouldn't happen that way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, especially for this by the book.
Right.
Officer.
Exactly. Exactly. So all the decisions
flying office block.
For them to get out of that situation would never happen because they would never run into the main guy to change his mind. Like
That's fair.
It bugged me. Life does not work that way. Sorry, Joss.
That's an excellent point, Paul. I never would have really thought about that, but I think you're absolutely right.
Just a touch too comic booky.
Jacob, that leaves you. What was the thing you hated most about this episode?
Mine would be the Mal's explanation of why the guy is turned into or has morphed himself into a Reaver. It's like he starts explaining. It's like they start describing, be like, oh, he cut his tongue. Be like, be like, you're so savage. Like, no, be like, he's trying to make himself into a Reaver because he experienced so much trauma. That's the only thing he knows how to do. And I'm like, that's not how trauma works.
Right.
And
that's exactly how trauma works. You relive it.
Episode.
It's almost, it's almost like that's not how Reavers work at all.
What?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe it was thought out. I don't know.
Maybe.
We even had it figured out at this point.
Yeah, but
Reavers came from.
Yeah, but simply going off his logic that, like someone who is a victim who is being forced to watch something, and that somehow, unless you're dealing with someone who's been conditioned for years and years and years and years, they become that. But over the span of like 2 days, I don't know how long the Reavers had been on that ship.
Jacob, they're next to a black hole, so time works differently. So it was like it was years and years. Yeah,
I did not realize this was Interstellar.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't know Nolan had anything to do with Firefly.
They both don't have sound in space. It's obvious.
Well, that's just a stylistic choice, right?
Anyway, okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. That over just only a couple days, I could see that would be. I mean, we didn't really know how long it was, but that's a fair point.
Yeah, to turn a guy that we don't know what he was like before into a raving mad serial killer, and it's like, he's doing the only thing he knows how to do. Okay, and that made the jump in logic was more like, okay. I know you want to make a villain for this, but or an actual physical villain there.
I'm still going to go with, and this is just my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I don't think the explanation of how Reavers came, or even if he had come up with this, if he had already made the other decision or not about when it's explained how Reavers are made in the movie, I think he was just saying, yeah, this guy has gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
We don't know how long he's been there. He could be hungry and starving for all we know. But that's just like
true.
We don't know how long, what kind of stuff this guy went through.
That is true.
And we only have speculations. So
yeah, he may have gone through this huge war machine that just was falling apart all around him, and he was the only way to survive it was to go for these golden ore. Wait, I'm getting confused. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our favorite character in this episode. For me, I think I just really enjoyed Mal and how he sort of kept calm. He knew I liked, even though it's a bit Deus Ex Machina. I love that he sort of knew there's probably gonna be a trap. He sort of knew the things that were coming. He knew how to keep calm and all that tension. So I just enjoyed that.
You like know-it-alls, huh?
Yeah, exactly, Paul. That's it. No, but just his ability to think through all these tensions that were happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, what character did you gravitate to, or was your favorite?
Well, the one that I actually had like the one that I appreciated the most was actually Mal, the captain, in the fact that when he was dealing with the Alliance commander, he kept speaking up and insisting where, like, if someone who follows the rules with, like, if the commanding officer says, no, you're being taken away, they're like, fine, they just go with it. But he was like insistent, like, no, you don't know what you're doing. And like, and it really impressed me that, he was able to change the course and actually get out with still following the rules, but he spoke up about it. He was respectful, but he made his point. And it's something that I think I need to do in my own life more, just speak up a little more. And especially when I know things are not going the way I think that is best, but do it in a respectful way. And
absolutely.
I think that was a good lesson in this episode.
Awesome. How about you, Drew?
I'm convinced that any episode in which Kaylee has a major role will continually be my favorite character in those
Kaylee
episodes.
rocks.
Yes.
If for no other reason than how cute and adorable she is.
Yeah, that is
about
true.
Every single movement on this. I may have a small crush.
Yeah. she you know what? I will admit Kaylee was a crush of mine as well when I watched it. Absolutely.
And while she is like the brightest shining spot on here, I also liked I keep wanting to say River Song, but that's Doctor Who.
River
is the name that comes is also interesting in this because you can tell she knows what's going on, but no one's paying attention to her. She doesn't know what's going on, but she has a lot better idea about what's going on than anybody else.
And she's having to deal with her own trauma to figure out what's going on.
Going through what the mystery of what actually happened to her back at the academy, since it obviously has given her some sort of psychic spiritual powers, at least as far as this this episode's concerned.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Kaylee and River kind of have a tie in this one for me.
Very cool. How about you, Jacob?
I will go with more the odd character, more Simon. Simon is
he was going to be mine. Yeah. No, go
Simon was he's the devoted brother of River who loves his sister so much that he's willing to give up everything in order to save her, bring her out of the institution, to go on the run with her, to make sure she's safe, that the Alliance doesn't get her again. And he willingly sacrifices everything. And throughout this episode, he's constantly saying, be like, I feel like I'm doing nothing. And it's like, no, you're actually doing these great things. You're sacrificing everything for your sister. And I find that very, very appealing as a character. It's like this character who's willing to give up everything in order to secure a sibling or a loved one's safety. And I just that's a very enduring trait of a character. And I really dig that of the character.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Awesome, guys. Well, given if we were to just base it on this episode, would we want to continue watching this series going forward. For me, this is one of the ones where I'm like, I probably would just because I like all these characters, but this story wouldn't really invest me so much. I
feel the exact same way.
Oh,
Barely,
yeah.
yes.
Yes. But how about you, Jacob? Oh, let's start with Jacob first.
Well, with everything said and done, and the constant bombardment from family and friends, like, you have to watch this. This is the greatest show ever. I'd say no, just skip it completely.
All right.
No, I'm completely just no.
Oh, I'm like, okay, that's out of left field, but
no. I am definitely going to continue watching this. This is giving me inspiration to continue watching it and finally get around to watching the end of this series, which is sadly cut short. But to finally say to my family and friends, hey, I finally finished Firefly. They're gonna say, well, it's about darn time, Jacob.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, and Drew.
This is a different episode from the other two, and I will admit I'm usually not much of a horror guy in general, even though, and this is very much a horror-inspired episode.
Yes.
Which on one hand, I kind of thought brought it down for me to some degree.
Oh, okay.
But just because I'm not a fan of horror.
Yeah.
I mean, there's episodes of Star Trek that have the same issue. I'm putting that out there. But I am very much interested in continuing this the series just because I am curious where it's going to go. This has pushed enough of the mystery with River to make me wonder what's
absolutely.
And I'll admit, I know I watched Serenity in theaters, but I only saw it the one time, so I don't remember how anything about the movie other than I know they disguised the ship as Reaver. They disguised the Serenity as a Reaver ship. So
Yes.
That's all I remember. But yeah, I am interested in seeing where this goes, and
awesome.
I will continue watching it as y'all go through it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement to probably keep watching with some slight hesitation, but
I mean, it's far better than Young Indiana Jones.
Here. But thank you so much, Jacob, Drew, and Paul, for being a part of this review of Firefly. And until next time, stay shiny, people.
Oh, darn it. Sorry.
Don't let the space bugs fight.
I was meant to say good night.
That's fine. I was head face palming because of your Nathan Fillion, but where's the I thought I had the anime one saved. What's it called, Paul?
The one that I was using?
Yeah.
This is important, folks. Hold on.
Yes.
Well, Yoshi was wanting to see what I look like, so I'm trying to. It's weird, Yoshi. I go from having no hair to all the hair, back and forth. But I'll tell you here once Paul gives me the name.
I don't have any of these fancy fun tools.
Now I can't find it. It's called Anime Style.
That, and I'm convinced our camera's too far away to do anything. To get
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but I was about to say that. Yeah. No.
No, not that one.
No.
Well, I mean, I can see you as an anime villain, so it's a right hair.
Wow, that's
whoa.
Why are the eyes down?
Ay.
That's not it either.
That's the VHS.
It's called
You're
Anime
tracking.
Style, one word.
Yeah,
maybe?
your tracking's way off.
Oh, good grief! Please
Wow.
stop
Corey looked like
that.
Corey
Is that
Cooper
the
from
My
Skillet.
Little Pony one?
I don't know. I don't know.
He's
I
got
put
an
an
eyeball
anime
popping out.
style. I don't know why it's not coming up. That's frustrating. Thank you, Paul.
It's 2 words.
Yeah. And it's even by Snap. I don't know why it's having trouble with it. Heaven forbid it comes up in search. Jeez Louise.
I don't think Ashley's a fan.
You're not a fan of this? Why not? Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, it's just right there at the front. No, it's unfeatured.
There you go.
Whoa.
Here we go.
There we go.
This
You
is
got a bit of a
An 80s anime vibe.
Yeah.
Shinji vibe going there.
I go from old to very young, depending on how close to the camera I am. Hello.
As
All right.
mildly
It's disturbing a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know, right? It's like, no hair? I can get hair somehow. There's hair.
There's
Now I
hair.
have
Headphones are messing
hair
it up.
because of the headphones. Now I don't have hair. Here we go. Anyway,
All
so
I've
that's what I
got
look
is
like here.
Garfield's back being
Okay.
a phone.
Do any of you need to take a break before we get to our spiritual speculation section?
Oh,
I
yes,
don't know,
yes,
Paul.
yes, I remember. Do you want me to give you a clean reading of Good Night? Don't let the space bug bite.
I can
You got
edit
it.
that together. That's fine.
All right. You won't. But okay.
Okay. Thumbs up if you're ready for spiritual speculation.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
Okay, so I'm
Paul,
not
you said yours is just a thought, right?
Yeah, mine's just a comment that people can
Okay.
comment on, but
Mine's just an illusion.
Okay. So I'm gonna go Paul, Drew, mine. Jacob, you didn't have something, or you did have something?
I'll probably bounce off if when you guys
That's
start
fine.
talking. I might.
Yeah. I prefer your IRL look, Francisco. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay.
but the thing is, this isn't IRL. This is a stream. It's just pixels on your screen.
Breaking the illusion, Paul. Oh my word. All right.
In stereo.
Right. Okay, and 3,
Really
2.
scary how our brains work sometimes.
Welcome, reflux capacitors, to another spiritual speculation where we give some thought to the spiritual elements of the films and games we cover on the Retro Rewind podcast. This conversation will be coupled with our review of The Thief and the Cobbler, episode 246, retrorewindpodcast.com/246. You don't have to have listened to that to get anything out of this, but sometimes, oftentimes, the humor from the episode transposes over here. So you'll miss out if you don't listen to that first. But before we get into our conversation, let's go around and say who we are, what our faith life was growing up, and what we currently believe now. I'm Francisco. You probably know that by now if you've been listening. I was raised...
Actually, I didn't know this.
Oh,
No.
my gosh. I was
Who's
raised
this guy again?
Presbyterian. I'm telling
You're
you,
Presbyterian?
if you would just listen, you heathens. I was
been
raised
called worse.
Presbyterian, which is a Protestant denomination, and currently a non-denominational Protestant Christian. Let's go to Jacob next.
Let's see. I grew up in a Christian home. I wasn't really. I was taught to be a good Christian man. I came to know Jesus Christ when I was 9 years old, and
cool.
I started going to church to a BMA church, was a Baptist Missionary Association church, and then around 2009 I started going to a Southern Baptist church, and so I've been a Southern Baptist for about 12 years.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Drew?
I too grew up in a Christian home. My parents, when I was born, were going to a Nazarene church, but then we moved to a Southern Baptist church, and that's the church I was saved into. Not that I was saved into it, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
And now I'm currently a Southern Baptist.
Okay. Awesome. And Paul?
Well, I was a thieving heathen, crawling around sewers, getting my hands on whatever I could, and then when that life didn't lead me really to anywhere, I gave my life to Christ, and now I follow him.
That's fantastic, Paul. Did you ever get your hands on some golden orbs?
All the time. And then lost them and got them back and gave them to... Yeah.
Doesn't sound like you're very good at thieving.
No.
Do you find yourself still dealing with the temptation to be greedy?
Well, sometimes,
pocket.
but the main weird thing is I still have Jonathan Winter's voice in my head monologuing.
Scary.
Wow.
I think we need an exorcism here, quick.
All right. Paul, why don't you start us off? Was there anything in The Thief and the Cobbler that sort of got your mind thinking or wondering about in a spiritual context?
Well, not so much in the movie, but the movie itself was written by, written and directed mainly by Richard Williams, and this was a tragic story of a movie that was worked on for many, many years, and then he never really finished it the way he wanted it to. And it reminded me of the verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. NIV says, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. So, and it reminded me of, there's things that we could focus on, but that may wind up not being the fruit of what we think or what we should be focusing on. So, you can be like, it's permissible, but it's not beneficial. So it just reminded me that we need to seek God, especially in our main ventures.
Absolutely. Yes. That's, well, before I monologue, Drew or Jacob, anything that comes to mind for you that you want to speak to on that point?
You got something? I got nothing to add, unfortunately.
Yeah. Me either.
All right. For what I'll say on that is that there was a time. It's funny. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys have this experience where you'll share a story from your past, and then all of a sudden you're sharing that same story in different contexts lots of times. For whatever reason, it just makes sense to share it. So this is happening now with this story. There was a time where I was a volunteer for my church's youth group, an adults leader volunteer for the youth group. And I've been doing that for a few years, and I was to this point where I was just wanting God sort of to speak over what he wanted me to focus on in that, in helping with the youth. And so I was out walking during my lunch break, just praying, God, please help. Where do you want me to focus on? What do you want me to be doing to best serve these youth? And what I really felt like he was telling to me, not in an audible voice, but just in sort of a spirit, internal thoughts way, he is saying he wanted me to play games. And I was like, really? Because that's kind of what I wanted to do. So are you sure that's it? Because I feel so often like I expect God to be wanting me to do something that I don't want to do. I feel like that's a common thing. Like, obviously, it's not something I'll want to do. But I mean, he made us
50 lashes while you're at it.
But he made us in certain ways, and so it would make sense that our talents would sort of go along with how he how he fashioned us to operate. Anyway, so I served with volunteered with the youth for several years after that. But I think what God was really getting at in the long scope was for me to play games to help build the Retro Rewind community and to serve people in that context, as opposed to just the youth. I think that was appropriate for that season, but I think he meant it for this larger, I don't know if mission makes it sound a little too grandiose, but this other setting. So that in that way, I feel like it doesn't quite speak to what you're saying, Paul, in that
forget what you said. I want to tell my own story.
Well, I think but it's in that you want to seek God's leading, and if I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would have gotten to the same place I did. So I think that's where I was going.
So God's leading is the connection. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now that I've monologued, Drew, what illusion or whatever came to you from watching Thief and the Cobbler?
Well, as you know, the movie kind of has a bit of a Deus Ex Machina type ending, where the only reason anything is allowed to come out right is because Tack, with that slingshot, essentially fired the Tack in a very convenient way that somehow was able to take out the entire giant machine and take out not Zigzag. Although Zigzag died in that too.
Zigzag's horse.
One Eye.
Yeah.
One
Eye, yeah.
And take out the whole thing that's going to destroy the Golden City. And I got thinking
let me guess.
about.
This is about how Tax can ignore Newtonian physics. That's what this is about.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm going with David and Goliath.
Oh, okay.
Because David also got one good shot off to take out this giant of a man that should not have been that easy to go down under normal circumstances. And that was able to take, and while that stone is not what killed Goliath, it stunned him long enough for David to get out there and cut his head off. Bringing down the Philistine army from taking out Israel. And I think in both cases, obviously David and Goliath, you got God being the one who's behind all that. In reality, I won't say that he's the God in the machine, but he's the God causing everything to go exactly the right way.
God is everywhere, so isn't he in the machine too?
You know what I mean. He's not controlled by the machine, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But in the movie, you've got he had the witch tell him what he needed to do when the time came, and he realized, what I need to do is have faith that somehow if I fire this tack, that it's going to cause everything to go right. In both cases, both Tack and David had to have faith that this one tiny little thing
would work
with the right power behind it. In David's case, God, and I don't know what is, and I guess pure coincidence in the case of Tack.
I think so. Yes.
Would actually cause everything to turn out all right, one way or another. That's the only thing I got out of that.
Yeah, no, that's
sometimes you have to have faith in the little things. What seems like the little things,
like
because you actually have faith in God.
Like a hobbit. Wow.
Don't look at me. I've had my second breakfast.
It's never a big hope, just a fool's hope. Wow. Okay, so that I totally see the connection with that though, Drew. I feel like trying to think. I think that I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Stumped you.
You did stump me. I'm like,
you weren't expecting an Old Testament reference.
What do I add to this? I don't know. Jeez, the Old Testament. I never read that. I only read this new stuff.
Yeah, it's not like the New Testament is providing commentary for what the Old Testament said.
It
can't be unhitched.
I only read the cobbled version of Testament.
Wow.
Psalms and Proverbs in the New Testament, and that's it.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
the one that comes in that small pocket-sized Bible.
Yeah,
that they hand out at the universities. That,
little Gideon Bible.
Yeah,
I don't even think the Gideon Bible is that.
Probably doesn't come with maps.
Yeah.
Yeah. No maps. Jeez, how am I supposed to get around Jerusalem?
Especially when you probably are not as likely to go there.
Yes, exactly.
When you're on the other side of the world.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know if I have anything to add to that, other than I think the faith that David puts in. Well, I'm
more faith in God than the stone, but he's got to have faith that God's going to cause the stone to go where it needs to go.
Right. Well, and it's almost a faith in God without even having any sort of like divine instruction. At least that's how I remember. He just feels like, no, God's going to win this somehow, some way. I'll just do what I can.
But at the same time, he didn't just pick up one stone; he picked up 6. He just only needed one stone.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, 5. Okay, 5 stones.
Okay, yeah, 5. Whatever.
Whereas it felt like Tack needed to solve some riddle in order to figure out what to do, but it was still
it's not a perfect illusion.
Yeah,
but
I guess
because I don't think that was in anyone's mind in making this movie. In fact, I have no idea what was in Richard Williams' mind in making the story of this movie.
Not an ending, I know that much.
Yeah,
but I will say I think there is something to that. God can a verse I always enjoy, and I need to actually know where it comes from. I think it's Ezekiel, or I don't think it's a proverb, but it's that the foolishness of God is wiser than man's wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than man's strength. And all that, what I always get out of that is that we may think we're just the smartest people, we have all the answers, but we really know nothing in comparison to God. And the fact that God could use such small things to make such big changes in people's lives, I think this would be sort of thematically similar in that just this one small tack can take out this huge daunting force that most people would think, well, there's no hope. So, yeah. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that before we carry on? No? All right. For me, the thing that struck me was the thief, in the midst of his thieving, says something like, why am I doing this? Like, he's like, he keeps like running into issues and trying to get certain things. And he says, why do I do this? And it totally made me think of this passage from Romans, and it turned out to be Romans 7. And I think I'll focus on verse 19. For the good that I want to do, I do not do, but I practice the very evil that I do not want to do.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Romans.
Yeah, that's Romans.
Yeah, I know. I'm reading it right here, guys. I know it's Romans.
That's from the Bible, right?
No, I'm just saying that is a verse that pops up continually in a Bible study we're in.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. But yeah, it was fascinating to me that this thief sort of realized, why do I keep doing this thing? It's not getting me anywhere. And Christians often run into the same thing, like, why do I keep having this sin? It's not helping. And all the things I don't want to do, and I know I shouldn't do, I end up doing, and all the things I don't want to do, all the things I should be doing, I don't do. And it's just this constant conflict that I find I certainly struggle with. I imagine most Christians struggle with that. And I think that goes back to spiritual warfare in a way, and just our battle with crucifying our flesh and putting Christ first in our lives. That's a lifetime of sanctification for that. But that's what came to me. Do you? And I'm curious if any of you think that I'm reading too much into that, or maybe I'm misquoting the Bible in that, or misthinking about it.
You mean misapplying it rather
misapplying
than
it?
misquoting
Sure.
it?
Yeah.
Because I was about to say, I don't. I didn't really feel any remorse on the side of the thief in the film.
No.
Where I feel like, as in the Christian walk, because we have the Spirit within us, there is remorse there.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts?
I mean, the thief is in so many ways a side character whose name probably shouldn't even be mentioned in the film, because all he really does is steal the stuff.
Yeah.
So he's a one-note character for the most part.
That is true.
Yeah.
No matter which version of the film you watch.
Right.
So, I mean, his entire point in that film is to steal everything.
Yeah.
So that's his entire motivation, because that's all he knows how to do. That's why I don't even know if he knows he can do other things.
He probably does. He seems like he's sneaky, like he wants to do it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if he what am I trying to say?
He can leave the women's bananas alone.
He can. That doesn't mean he wants to.
Yeah.
Right.
His compulsion to
he does
thieving
have a
is so
compulsion, but
overwhelming.
what I'm saying is, I don't know if he realizes he's got more life than just being a thief.
Oh,
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
I don't know if that's even entered his mind. And for the most part, it looks like, along with just being a thief, he's the most hated member of the community, almost as if nobody has ever reached out to him to say, hey, you don't have to be like this. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever entered Richard Williams' mind to give that much thought to this character.
I will agree with this, because I think most of the characters he designed was very one note.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because I think the story here in the movie, and not to get back, we're getting off spiritual speculation.
Yeah,
it's really felt like all the characters were one note, just so we could have all this excuse to make pretty animation.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Do you guys understand why the thief has flies around him?
Because he's
dirty.
He's dirty.
That's explained in the recobble cut. He actually literally smells.
Oh,
He stinks
okay.
badly.
That makes
And you
sense.
can
That's
see at
how.
one
That's
point-
one of the reasons why he had to leave the bathroom when he stole the back scratchers so quickly, is because the girls were saying, "Did something die in here? What happened? Where did this horrible smell come from?" And that's what gets Tax's mind as he's, when he runs into Tack right before the big chase scene. Tack even almost catches him just via the smell.
Right.
Oh gosh.
And I think that's
okay.
Miramax
Because he smells
version, but it's
that
hard-
bad. That's what gets
Yeah.
Tack's attention.
It's a
Gotcha.
quick thing.
Okay.
That was
I didn't
cut
notice
out
that.
for the most part of the Miramax cut.
Okay.
That's why he's got the flies, is because literally he's smells. He's probably got maggots all in that cloth, and that's just, they just live around.
Gross.
Gosh,
Yeah, that
why
makes
gotta
sense.
Go there, Drew.
Because the movie almost went there.
All right.
I'm just anyway. Moving on, like the maggots in our own lives when we're sinful.
Oh,
Good call.
good way to
There's
bring it back.
There's
There you
bringing
go.
it
Good
back
call.
to spiritual speculation.
Yes.
You have maggots when you're sinful?
Metaphorical maggots.
Metaphorical.
Oh. Anyway, I think that's all I had. Any other thoughts or other things that came to mind, either from talking or watching this movie that you guys want to discuss, or anything from Firefly that came to mind? If not, we will close it out.
The
Going
only thing
once. All right, no. Go for it, Jacob.
All right. The thing that kind of brought up to mind was the idea of the thief. He's a very self-centered character. All he wants is the next shiny thing. He doesn't care how he gets it. Doesn't how much he hurts. How much, and that reminded me of John 10, actual John 10:10. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. Christ, came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. So the idea, it's almost an allegory that the thief himself is a devil in a way, that all he cares about is his selfish ambition, his desire to get the next shiny, kind of implying back into our Firefly episode. And just I just saw that allegory of our thief character being a literal devil allegory.
That's all the backstory you need. He's Satan.
He's Satan, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good to know. That's
Yes.
great. Wow.
And,
okay.
And when you lose all sense of self, you turn into a reaver.
There. The end.
The end.
There we go.
That means peace.
Not quite. We're not to that point yet.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. This has been another great discussion. Really appreciate getting to have these spiritual discussions with you all. And thank you all, our patrons, for supporting this content. Where hopefully you're enjoying it. But for me, for Drew, for Jacob, and for Paul, we bid you all shalom.
That means peace.
Pizza? I could deal with a pizza.
Yeah.
Wow.
My gosh. You and your kid face.
Yeah.
So much cuter than mine. Oh my goodness.
I am so glad the tripod is blocking Paul right now.
Oh my gosh. That was an interesting one. Let's say that.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
Says
All
great
maggots have a north and south pole. That's interesting, Baba.
Good
I did
to
not
know.
that. Yeah.
Good night.
I knew they had input and output, but
How do they have? They have like a sense of where North and South Pole is. What is that?
Oh, maybe it's a play on the word maggot. It sounds like magnets. Maybe.
Oh,
that's my only guess.
I was thinking maybe they're so large that they create their own gravitational pull and they have a north and south.
I really don't want to be around a maggot
That's
that
a
big.
huge maggot.
No.
Anyway,
That's a big Twinkie.
Will you guys join me in a stream face? I got it. Okay, thank you, Baba.
Maybe.
As we leave. But thank you all who are here. Babo, Ashley, I think Dale was here. Stacy left. But anyone else who is here. Oh, Yoshi, Coffee, Adventure, everyone. Really appreciate you all. We'll be back tomorrow morning for Sarah Kid Adventures playing Curse of Monkey Island when Mutant Blobs attack. And I think tomorrow's game is going to be back to... it's either going to be Splatoon or it's going to be Awesome Knots. I forget exactly which was the last one. But
awesome.
I wasn't there Saturday, so I can't help you.
Okay, no worries. I know the last one we did was Pokemon Unite. That was this last one. But
okay.
Of course, you're welcome, Yoshi. And bots, you're not welcome. Now, why am I highlighting the bots? No, I don't. I'm trying to block it.
That's
Jiminy
a bot.
Christmas.
Maybe Andy's not a bot.
He's a bot. I know it. All right, so until next time, guys, here is your stream face.